Just wanted to drop in and say hello to anybody listening to this pod. I hope everybody's having a great day. Wherever you are, whenever you are, I just wanted to come in real quick, make a little announcement, a little warning before the pod that Marley, he was a fantastic guest. I hope if you like Fast and Furious, listen to this conversation. We had a fantastic time doing it, but he just had a little bit of a connection issue for a minute right at the beginning. And then like a minute, an hour in, but it's not the entire pod. It's just 2 minutes out of 2 hours and 12 minutes. So it's not a big deal. I just want to let you all know. Besides that little issue, everything is going great. We are pretty much on track to have an episode coming every other week on Mondays. I'm going to go right into Cole Cooper's fantastic intro. Here we go. Alrighty, welcome back to Cinema Pursuit, y'all. We have another great guest here today, going solo with Mr. Marley Silverbrand. Mr. Marley loves film. You have a great podcast, the Real Lovers Podcast. You're, 70 plus episodes in, currently doing the Letterboxd Top 250 on there. I will be on there soon at some point, but how's everything, Marley?
It's going great. Thank you for having me on the Cinema Pursuit podcast. This is it's been a long time coming, and the movie that we're covering, it feels right that we're covering.
Oh yeah. This is perfect because it was, like I told you, it's something where it's like organically we were talking about this already. It's been coming up, like Christopher Nolan just won his Oscar. Like the vibes are in the air for Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, a period movie now, and it hits extremely well. And everything about the 2000s in there is like, it's like whoever wins this race gets me. It's like that ain't flying today, okay? But Marley, where did your love for film start?
My love for film started. I always say it started with Back to the Future. I remember sitting on the couch with my brother at my in my hometown in California and watching Back to the Future and just seeing Doc and Marty just like having the just doing stuff with time travel and like driving the DeLorean, seeing that back out of the truck. I was just like, my eyes lit up and I was just like, they make movies about this? Like, this is like, always just like it. That's what sparked my interest in filmmaking and movies. And I was just like, I want to do this for the rest of my life, either whether it's talking about them, making them, writing them.
For me, it was, I've been watching movies since I was a kid. I didn't have too many friends. Like, movies was always like my thing I had at the house. And it wasn't like I had a lot of movies, but I had the movies that I always watched. But I was like 7 or 8, and we got Minority Report on DVD, which was like a big deal. And I watched that. And I love that movie so much. And then I was like, who's this Steven Spielberg character? He made that War of the Worlds I just watched a couple weeks ago. And then I was like, oh, that's what a director is. And then after that, high school, The Dark Knight came out, and I used that as like, we had film classes in high school. I went to an arts high school, and I just started learning from there. I was like, oh, I can watch this movie on HBO constantly, and I can learn, and I just kept learning. So the love has always been there for me too. And I love Back to the Future. Like I said, we just did it on the podcast, and it just, the movie, there's like one thing that doesn't age well. Everything else is fantastic.
Yeah, great episode, by the way. I literally just finished listening to that one. But what part of it didn't age? Although, well, I have to ask.
Just the brown terrorists, that's it. The Libyans, that's it.
Yeah, 2024, it's not going to fly. That's why it's like, everyone always asks me, like, what would you do if they remade Back to the Future? And one, that's never going to happen.
It'll happen. It's just, we ain't going to go see it. We're not going to support it. It's not going to exist in my head.
Yeah, which is why, like, when the rumors came out, like, when supposedly Christopher Lloyd was supposed to be in Fast 10, like, there was rumors about that. I was like, no, I don't want I don't want him being a part of this universe at all.
I don't know if I stitched you. I don't know if I posted it or not, but I did have a draft at least that I made of stitching you with the DeLorean being there when they were shooting Fast 10. Yeah. And I was like, they better have time travel. We have to make this happen at this rate. I remember that. So we've been rocking for a minute, man.
Time traveling back to save Paul Walker. So
I mean, Los Bandoleros. It's gonna start playing and it's gonna be all the vibes.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'm gonna put up a spoiler warning for all the Fast and Furious movies, Hobbs and Shaw included, because this is a conversation where I'm like, we just kind of have to talk about everything. We're not gonna really talk about Fast X and whatever's going on in that, but everything else, we kind of need to talk about it to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like anybody listening to this, they're gonna be a real fan, because if you're talking about Tokyo Drift, it's kind of like the deep cut for the fans. So, where did you start with Fast and Furious? Is this something where I grew up watching it? What was it for you?
For me, Tokyo Drift came out in 2006. When I was in high school, I believe I was a junior. I was a junior, sophomore or junior in high school. And I don't remember actually seeing it in a theater, but I rented it from the video store. And video stores were a thing you would leave your house and and check out movies on the regular. And sometimes
it was a real vintage
fees.
experience. Like, you just had to be there for it.
Yeah, you just had to be there for it. It's just like, but I believe I rented it, and it never really like struck a chord with me. I was just like, oh, cool, like this is like street racing. The next thing is when I saw Fast Five for the first time. I was listening to the Slash Filmcast, and I still listen to that podcast to this day. And it's now called the Filmcast, and they reviewed Fast Five, and they were saying this is the best action heist movie ever. And I was just like, what? The Fast and the Furious? No way. So I went to the theater to go check it out. It was amazing. And then Justin Lin, I saw his name pop up. I was like, that name looks familiar. So whenever a movie is like really interesting to me, I always have to like go on IMDb.
Of course.
And explore their entire filmography. So I saw Tokyo Drift in there, and then started going into a deep dive on like, this is a prequel to 4, 5, and 6, and well, 6 didn't come out at that point.
The movie it takes place between 5 and 6, I think, because I think technically the date is supposed to be like 2013 for Tokyo Drift, even though it's 2006.
Even though everyone's using flip phones in Tokyo Drift.
That's one of my favorite details. When they're sitting there and they're like recording on the phones, I was like, yes, you're capturing like the contemporary experience.
They're not recording, they're live streaming on their
phone.
Oh,
okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that in 2006, but when did Justin.tv come out? Like, you remember Justin.tv? Oh,
no.
I just dated
You're
myself.
old, man.
I just dated myself.
No, I just didn't have internet. I didn't have good internet till like 2012 or like 2010-ish. So I was a little late.
You weren't missing much. It's basically just a live streaming. I didn't have very good internet either, but at least I tried to live stream myself. But I don't know. That's what I have this for. The podcasting and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of went on a deep dive on everything Tokyo Drift, and I really started to fall in love with Justin Lin as a director and filmmaker. And it makes me, I know Tokyo Drift has always been kind of like the black sheep of like the entire Fast and Furious like franchise, just because it doesn't have any of the original cast in it, well, except at the very end.
Yeah, Vin.
I love the kind of like resurgence for this movie, just because, especially now with like more diverse casts like popping up, people are like, oh, this came out in 2006. You have like Asian people kind of like being like the main protagonist and also like the main antagonist as well. I love the resurgence for this as well.
Justin Lin, he was on Happy Sad Confused rewatching Tokyo Drift, and he was talking about how he had a kid on set. It's like a preteen in junior high, middle school, and he was missing out on a school dance that was Tokyo Drift themed. So I was like, if I was in middle school, I would have missed it for the world. But I was like, that's a surprising thing. I mean, whether they're doing it genuinely or just doing it for, just for the giggles, still having it at being like Tokyo Drift, that's such a vibe. So it being the black sheep, what are your rankings for the Fast and Furious? I feel like this is like just for everyone to gauge where me and you are. Okay. What is your ranking? Or like, I have tiers, but you tell me.
Of all of them?
Yeah.
Oh, this is good. See, you put me on the spot a little bit. Like the currently, I always love people ranking Fast and the Furious movies, because everyone has the most unhinged like ranking, because everyone else is different. I think For me, it would go 7, number 1.
Okay.
That's the best one. It should have ended there. It should have ended
True.
there.
Agreed.
And it's kind of like a toss up here. Like I'll honestly go Tokyo Drift, especially on this rewatch.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then I'll go Fast 6 or Furious 6. I need to be correct with the titles. Or
I'm not gonna be correct.
Fast and Furious 6.
And then Furious 7 just says Furious 7.
and then Fast 5, and then we'll go Too Fast, Too Furious.
Okay.
With very underrated film. Very underrated.
I know, right? I love it. I just had a friend, he was telling me, or like he apparently drops the lines like, forget about it, cuh. He drops that line so much that his friends are beaming him on Instagram.
Paul Walker acting Hood is something that I never knew I wanted in the world, but now that I have it, I never want it to leave my mind ever again.
John Singleton, man, I love like Fast and Furious 1 and 2 are how I have like my love for this franchise is because of them. So it's, I mean, and this one, like Fast, these are the 3 that I always watched on TV. I mean, that's my childhood, man. Me and my brother watching these movies.
The more recent ones, kind of like, I put them all in the same bucket. Like 8, 9, and 10. They're all kind of bottom. Like all together. Like bottom. Well, I wouldn't call them bottom. It's just, I don't know. They're just.
Okay, if you have to put one at the bottom, I think I know which one it is.
8.
8. Okay. Yeah. I would put 10 there.
10 has Jason Momoa.
True, there's a redeeming quality, but for me, it's like I'm not gonna put on 8, 9, or 10 just for like a rewatch. It's not gonna happen.
See, 9 I will actually rewatch just because Justin Lin directed it. And
that's true. That and like the Cena stuff, I will rewatch it, but still, like I would rather watch, one of these other ones. Where do you have Hobbs and Shaw?
I don't rank those. I don't rank that one. It's not fair.
It's not familiar. So for me, I'm gonna go. It's 5. 5 is on top because I love action movies. I love heist movies. That's the mix. So that's my favorite, and it's been my favorite. And 7 is number 2, but barely number 2 because those are both the best. And then I'd go Fast 6, Fast 2. Then I'd go Tokyo Drift, and then the Fast and Furious. And then it's 8, 9, 4, just as like a third tier, and then the bottom is Fast X.
I didn't even rank 4. 4 is something that always gets forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a transition movie, but it's like it's one hell of a transition because the end of the movie starts 5 and like the train just starts chugging, just starts running from there, but then it screeches to a halt with 8. So
8 I can't support just because of Charlize Theron's just white girl dreads. I can't.
I love her, but
cultural appropriation.
I mean, it's a little weird. I'll tell you that. You can very much tell with that movie. It's like, oh yeah, these people were never on the same shooting schedule one bit, and it's noticeable to the point where it's like it's hurting the movie for me. And I don't usually like that part of my brain is always turned off, but it's like so noticeable. So it turns into an issue. But 5, 7, 6, 1, 2, and 3 are the class of, and 4 a little bit for me, where it's like I love these movies. I barely have complaints about them. And if they're on TV or something like that, I just gotta watch them. Like it's always a vibe. I love these movies. For the pod, I'm not going to talk about most of them. It's this, 5, 7, and because of you, 6 might happen, honestly, one day.
6 is truly the greatest action movie, I feel like. I like 5. 5 is a really good heist movie, but I feel like Justin Lin learned everything from 5 and implemented it into 6. Plus, it has like that heartbreaking scene of Han losing Giselle. And I promise I won't go on a rant for Fast 10. This won't be very long. But
bro, when she comes up, I'm just like, why'd y'all do this?
Why would you do this to Han? Hasn't Han suffered enough? Like,
oh man. And I'm just like, and I literally, I told you we were watching the movie. It just felt like we were joking around and we were writing the movie. It's like, no way, this wouldn't happen. And literally the thing comes out of the ass. I'm like, that's about to be Giselle. That's about to be Wonder Woman in there, isn't it? And she comes out, I'm just like, I'm like, why? Why are you doing this?
I had that exact same experience, except like the part where when Dom and his son were on the dam, and I was like, he's gonna drive down the dam, isn't he? Yep, he drove down the dam.
Well, they ruined it in the trailers, so I
Yeah.
hate when
Well,
movies do that.
I didn't watch the second trailer, so I only watched the
Second
first.
trailer, that is the main thing they have in the trailer. And I wasn't something where I wanted to watch the trailer. I was just bombarded with it, whether it's like on like social media, YouTube, TV, whatever it was coming at me unnecessarily because I try to avoid all trailers at this point. I might watch one teaser, that's it. I don't want to watch your trailers unless someone's like, yo, that was a good trailer, you should watch it. So like Monkey Man, I saw that trailer like 10 times. I ain't gonna lie. And I'm still hyped for it.
Yeah, I'm so hyped for Monkey Man. Dev Patel. Put Dev Patel in Fast and Furious. That's what I'm asking. We need more brown
Doom
representation.
We're gonna get into Doom at some point. Like
You really do. Doom. I just watched Doom 2 for the first time.
Doom 2?
Doom. Is it Doom?
For anybody who doesn't know, we're talking about a movie that came out relative same time. Doom 2 is like Abhishek Bachchan and a couple other, like Hrithik Roshan, Bollywood movie. Highly recommend everybody goes and watches that movie because it's one of my favorites of all time. I will say for once, it's a movie that I'm recommending that is actually better than the one we're talking about. For once.
Is it?
I love
I'm kidding.
I genuinely love Doom 2 that much. And it's a thing where it's like anybody that was like growing up in the 2000s watching Bollywood movies, that movie is just like them trying to be American, but them being themselves at the same time. And they actually go to Brazil too, right?
I was surprised, like, when that popped up. I was like, did they watch Fast and Furious?
They did it before Fast did it. So who is watching who? It's almost a thing where it's like they're like America watched them while they're also watching America too. So it's like it's a lovely exchange of ideas in a good way.
Justin Lin needs to bring Doom back and how many are there? There's
3.
There's 3. He needs
and
to do
like
a 4th.
Doom 4 is like something where it's like you're kind of chasing the golden goose. We want another one, but it's like, could you really top Doom 2 just for the vibes? I think they have one of the best villains in that movie, but we're gonna talk about it later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you got into your memories for this movie. For me, my memories of like Tokyo Drift are that, like I said, me and my brother pretty much grew up watching 1 and 2, and I think like 2007, I guess it was on TV, and we watched Tokyo Drift so much. We watched 4, 5, 6, at least those before he went off to college. We watched all those together in the theater, and like we're genuine fans of these movies. I'm not a car guy. I think my brother is more than I am, but the vibes from this movie specifically, all these movies, it's something else. It's just anytime I see this stuff, I'm just like, yes. Marley, tell me the truth. Have you ever watched one of these movies and then like gone outside, got in your car, just gone like just going crazy?
All the time. And I'm pretty sure like when these movies, the reason why they still make these movies is so cops can be like when they release, or like it's like they're ready, or like right outside the movie theater, like for people to burn out. But I'm not a car guy either. Like, and the part of the reason why I love Tokyo Drift so much is the fact that Justin Lin is so good with characters. And this is really the first movie where, yes, there's street racing. It's kind of like the last movie that really deals
on the
with
ground.
Street racing. You have street racing like on the ground. But Justin Lin is so good with characters, and the way he kind of like melds like these characters to like their car, like their personalities kind of like live with their cars.
Oh yeah, it's like Paul Walker with the Skyline.
Yeah,
like, that's his car. That's his car in those movies. And then Dom, it's obviously that whatever. I think it's like the Charger. What, I'm gonna get slaughtered for this. Whatever,
Dodge
you know the car.
Charger. I think Dodge guess. Charger. I guess
whatever that black car, the American car. Okay, the muscle car.
Yeah, American muscle. That's the most important thing, because Dom might have a few words for you if he said.
Yeah, I know.
If you caught him driving an import. So,
bro, he would kill you. And I mean, imports last more longer. So I don't agree with you, Dom. I'm all for family, but I'm not for those American vehicles.
Yeah, those gas guzzling like American vehicles.
I gotta tell you one story real quick. I don't know if I'm gonna leave this in or not. So I didn't have a car in high school till pretty late, and me and my brother had missed the bus, and we had a buddy. I'm not gonna name his name, but it's like we had an issue. He picked us up, right? And we're going around the corner in a certain area, and this man, he's like a Chevy, like a compact car, and this man tries to drift in the car, and he spins out. And literally, if I wasn't in that car, I felt like it would have flipped over. And I was just like, it was one of the craziest things. And I remember driving that way and seeing the skid marks on the grass and just on the road for like weeks. And I'm just like, bro, why did you do this? But we were like genuinely that into these movies, and that was not in a good way. That was a bad influence right there. And we had other kids in our class that had the Evo. They had the it's like the Mitsubishi Evo or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The red car that he drives in the movie.
You're talking about like the car that Han drives in Tokyo Drift?
No, the one that Sean drives, like the red
Oh,
car. He's like, you can't be driving a Hyundai if you're rolling with me.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because one little fun fact, like about the car that Han drives, the Mazda RX-7, is that when the movie first came out, that car cost like $20,000. And that's the reason why Justin Lin like got this car, because he was like, one, it looks cool, and he says that that's a car that Han would drive, like for sure. Sung Kang, the actor that plays Han, he's a huge car guy as well, and he really loved it as well. But do you want to guess like how much that car is going for now, based on the popularity of these movies?
Like 80?
$120,000.
Dang. They have one sitting at the ride at the Fast and Furious ride in Universal, and me and my friends were so into it. The ride is honestly, I don't like the stuff, but that ride is purely terrible. It is a very bad ride. But we go on the ride just to see the cars and for the vibes. We get inside, the music's fair, like family. Like, guys, let's go. And we're hyping it up so hard, and then the ride is so bad. It's just for
Who
the
did you
vibe.
have? Who did you have? Like, who is your tour guide for that ride?
I don't know. It's just like some like animatronic thing. It's not. It's just the like you go inside and then it's like there's just screens on the side and like Vin Diesel's like hanging onto a helicopter, like a little mini helicopter and stuff. It's so.
Did you go to LA or
no, Universal in Orlando?
Oh, it's probably different then, because the one in LA is actually really fun, just because it's a tram ride.
Yeah,
and,
it's
like,
a tram ride.
Okay, at the very end, like that's when Fast and Furious happens, and it depends on your tour guide, because if they're actually into it and they're like and they're like playing along with like the actors.
Oh, so you're talking about like the physical tram ride, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so for us, it's not like that. It's literally it's like you go through and then at the end the tram stops in a room that literally just has screens on two sides, and then you're just moving around and like there's like wind blowing at you, and it's just a simulated thing at the end.
You need to come to LA, because the Fast and Furious ride at LA is Universal Studios Hollywood is like it's next level. Like maybe I was just hyped when I went on it, but
I'm gonna have to check this out. Now I'm about to get off and I'm gonna text the group chat. I'm like, y'all, I got some new information about Familia. we gotta get to LA ASAP. I do need to come to LA. That's true though.
But personally, I think that the Fast and Furious is like a huge property now for Universal. And the fact that Transformers still has a ride at Universal Studios Hollywood doesn't make any sense, like why that Transformers ride is there. It should be Fast and Furious.
I like the Transformers ride. It's not as good as the Spider-Man ride. I don't know if y'all have that there. We have it here, but it's still good. Spider-Man's fantastic. It's better than Transformers. But at the end of Transformers, when like Optimus Prime comes down, I'm just like, yes, this is it. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that if you really wanted to like convert it, the Transformers one would be easiest to convert.
Oh yeah, they can make it happen with that, and it would be so much fun. Like a Fast and Furious ride, I'd be like Vin is our like Dominic's there. He's like, come on guys, we gotta go. It would be perfectly corny. It'd be awesome. I'd love it.
Yeah, I would love it too. They should just make a Tokyo Drift ride just randomly in 2024. I mean, you even have the girl. You're just drifting in circles. Like, you could have me.
Hey, I'd be down. Put me in the family. Put me in, coach, please.
Yes.
They'd have to play up the 2000s vibe, because this, like you said, this is a very, very 2000s. Like as soon as the movie opens, like Tokyo Drift opens, it's in the high school, and it's got like 6 Days is playing in the background, and it's like 120-year-olds playing high schoolers. I'm like, this is so 2000s still, because Lucas Black, he was I think he's like 24 in this movie, like when they shot this.
Yeah.
So it's like, bro, like when he's like standing there like against the wall at some point, I'm like, bro, you look so old. And when he takes off his shirt in the bathhouse, I'm like, bro, I got that much hair on my chest. And I'm just like, but it works for these movies. I mean, you know, that's the 2000s vibe. It's not like that. It's less and less like that, I guess.
Lucas Black got a lot of hate for this movie just because he was, like you said, he's supposed to be playing a teenager, but he's like way older than a teenager. But
I don't blame him. I mean, that would be on Justin, right?
Well, yeah, well, casting department, and
Yeah.
also Justin has also gone on record saying that Lucas Black was kind of perfect for this role because he wanted someone kind of like Paul, but also kind of like he wanted a fish out of water kind of like
Yeah.
story where he
And it
would go.
works. He's the only one, put it this way, out of the entire franchise of like protagonists for Fast and Furious, he sticks out like a sore thumb in a good
Mhm,
way. And that's why this movie, it very much is a vibe movie. And it's like, you have to understand that.
mhm,
They never made this movie to be like, oh yeah, we're going to have this guy. He's going to be in 10 movies and stuff like that.
mhm.
And when we get into recasting, I'm going to tell you who Justin Lin had as like one of the last three guys. It's a good name. And I'm just like, he would have been fantastic.
Mhm.
Lucas works. I love him for what he is, and I mean he's still doing work. He's on like NCIS New Orleans. I'm happy for the guy.
No, that's a good gig. Getting on NCIS like that's a
Oh
really
yeah,
good residual check because like he's doing
literally
fine.
literally before we were shooting, I was watching like 5 minutes of NCIS with my dad. Not that he watches it all the time, but it's still
Mhm.
good. That's that good procedural stuff, the OG
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't think I've seen like an episode of NCIS since it's been years.
It's
Like
been like 10 years for me. I think I watched
yeah,
like 12 seasons. I'm not gonna lie. I was a fan. Maybe
yeah.
less than 12, but it's like I watched a decent amount.
I was more Law and Order.
Law and Order. Oh no.
Yeah.
For me it's always like I need some sort of like mystery story or something like that. I need my
Mhm.
head working a little bit, but not too much because that's what that TV is. It's supposed to be, supposed to be fun.
Bones is kind of like that show for me a little
Bones is
bit.
good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and that
I enjoyed Bones.
but once they got together, I was not all about that. I was like,
Yeah, I didn't watch the last few seasons of Bones. Whenever it was on TV, I caught it.
mhm.
We just did a game night on the podcast, and what's the lanky guy in the suit?
Shoot.
You know what I'm
Oh,
talking about, right?
I know exactly who you're talking about.
So he's one of the directors for Game Night and for the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out last year.
John Francis Daly.
John Francis Daly. He's doing his thing, man. I'm becoming a very big fan of those guys. They're about to do a movie with Kenneth Branagh and Ryan Reynolds for Apple, like some
Mhm.
action adventure thing. I'm excited to see it.
I'm excited to see it, even though Apple movies have been hit or miss.
They've got great TV shows. I'll tell you that. They hit in the sauce with that. Christopher Nolan is someone who's gone on record saying that Tokyo Drift he's the one that he name dropped out of the Fast and Furious movies. And I've got his quotes. I'm sort of a original recipe, the Rob Cohen original, but I've got a very soft spot actually for Tokyo Drift, actually. And Justin Lin's iterations, as they got crazier, bigger, and crazier and bigger, they became something else, but something else is kind of fun. And then the other quote of it is, I have no guilt about being a fan of the Fast and Furious franchise. A tremendous action franchise. You've never seen any of them. He's talking to Colbert. He's like, you've never seen any of them? I watch those movies all the time. I love them. I'm amazed you've never seen any of them. It's only the last few where a specific arc in mythology develops. I would say to start with Tokyo Drift and watch it as its own thing. Let's go. Okay, see, that's the thing. It's like, why is it that Nolan, he's one of the best directors we have. He finally got an Oscar. I'm a big fan of his. I don't know, where are you with Nolan?
I love Nolan. I think some of his more recent ones, I definitely like wasn't the biggest fan of Oppenheimer. I still think it's like an incredibly well made film. I feel like I need to revisit Tenet because I only watched it on VOD. I missed my IMAX screening like a few
Okay.
weeks ago, but I love like his earlier ones. I love Memento. I love The Prestige. I think that's his best movie. And then Inception could be a masterpiece
Oh yeah.
if you're talking to the right people. But and I
People are
actually
always like,
did.
oh, 2010, the Oscar should have gone to Social Network. I'm like, no, it should have gone to Inception because y'all didn't want to nominate it in the first place.
Right.
And I'm gonna get into that whenever we do it on the podcast. Like, I have a whole like shtick about Inception, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, since you brought it up, how I feel about like Christopher Nolan, like I actually did a Christopher Nolan retrospect, like back in the early part of the pandemic when we knew Tenet was coming out. We was like, I
Yeah.
haven't really watched any of his movies, so I just marathoned him with a friend, and we just recorded our reactions. And I'm happy that he got his best director finally, because it should have happened a long time ago.
Oh
In
yeah.
my opinion,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It was well overdue, and the man was sitting there looking at it Oscar like five or six times during his speech. He was like,
Mhm,
it almost felt like for him it wasn't real either, and that's not how
mhm.
it should have been. It was well deserved, and he got it from the right hands. Spielberg, the right vibes. But for me, it's like he's one of my favorites. Put it that way. Which I mean, not a hot take here.
Seeing Christopher Nolan hug Steven Spielberg, I wish I screenshotted that just because that's something that I want framed, like
Oh,
on my wall.
what I want framed is him looking at it when Emma Thompson,
Hmm.
his wife is giving her speech at the end, or like when they won Best Picture, and he's just sitting there smiling. I'm just like, this is the right vibes, Hudson vibes, for all the
Hmm.
crap that like we as fans give him as being, dead wife trope, dead wife trope. Yeah,
Hmm.
he genuinely loves his wife and works with her, literally, right? And I
Yeah.
wouldn't imagine like a better place to be. But I'm not gonna get so emotional with this stuff. But my thing is that Nolan, everyone sees him as like, oh, like Nolan, he's probably watching like Tarkovsky, he's watching Fellini, he's watching, he obviously loves Stanley Kubrick. But it's like, if you actually watch films, you have to have a full diet of movies, and that's
Hmm.
not, degrading the Fast and Furious movies in any sense. But you should have, respect for these movies because it is good filmmaking. And I love action movies. That's my bread and butter. And Justin Lin is one of the best to ever do it. And this is him starting it.
Hmm.
So,
And also to defend Christopher Nolan again, he also loves cinema. He loves the movie theater experience, and that's something that Fast and Furious has kind of become like home to. I remember like when Fast 9 was like, or F9, the Fast Saga. Sorry, I messed up the title, but
it's
I remember
Fast
when
Nine. Call it Fast Nine.
I remember when that movie got delayed because of the pandemic, because they're like, "Oh, we can't have this movie go to the streaming. People need to see this on the big screen." And that's one of the reasons why Nolan left Warner Brothers.
And I commend, I guess it was, I don't know if it was Justin Lin or maybe it was Vin Diesel, whoever it was at Universal. I commend them
Hmm.
because they're the first people to push a movie. They pushed it a full year, and
Hmm.
they pushed it a month after that. But they're the only people to like actually take everything seriously. They
Hmm.
made the push, and the push was correct. And
Yeah.
besides them, it was, Top Gun Maverick. Everyone was complaining, I keep seeing this trailer. I keep seeing this trailer. Thank God when the movie. And what happened? The movie was
Hmm.
fantastic, but it's like, you need to have patience for movies, especially if you want to see them on the big screen. I'm literally going to
Exactly.
see Dune 2 again in IMAX tomorrow night because
Hmm.
that's the way to see that movie. There's no other way that you want to see that movie because you're not going to get that back.
I still haven't seen Dune 2.
I loved it, but I mean,
Yeah, I'll let
but
you know.
to but to your point, the Fast and Furious franchise itself attracts people across the world. The worldwide audience loves these movies too,
Hmm.
and I think it's the representation that's on screen that always comes to the audience. It relates to us, and I want to
Hmm.
go see it because of that. It's the vibes, but it's also the fact that we have everything else on screen it's atypical, sadly, still, that you can have a gamut of, people from different backgrounds coming together to be an ensemble cast. That, I mean, even if you look at the Avengers, they they don't look
It's all
like
white.
this, I'll tell you that.
They're all white.
They're
Except for Black Panther, but but
Wakanda forever. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, Wakanda forever. But and also, like, to your point, like, this is the first Fast and Furious is really the first blockbuster to feature, like you said, a diverse cast and also subtitles. Like, normally, like, subtitled movies don't do very well at the box office,
Sadly,
but
I hate that that's a thing.
yeah, I hate that that's a thing. But Fast and the Furious proves that you can have a successful movie and it can make money. Like Furious 7 is like I believe it's the first movie to make $1 billion, but
Yeah.
I think mainly because of the whole Paul Walker tragedy. But people wanted to see like what they would do there. But the movie still featured a diverse cast and had subtitles in it, and people still went to go see it. So, but yeah.
And it's, I don't know, and it's we say diversity, but it's a representation thing. I always say
Hmm.
representation because
Hmm.
diversity is backhanded, and it
Hmm.
never feels backhanded. The people that they have in this movie, it just works. I'm
Hmm.
not, no one's questioning, like, we're not asking. I still don't know. I'm like, what is Vin Diesel's ethnicity? And honestly, it doesn't even matter because you have like Rita Moreno's playing his mother, John Cena's his brother, Jordana Brewster's his sister. Is like, what's going on? I don't know what it is, but the vibe is good. That's all I know. I
I like
enjoy
how we
it.
we keep bringing up Fast 10 for some reason when we're supposed to be talking about Tokyo Drift, but I love it. I love
Okay.
it.
Okay, I'm a skirt.
One more thing to add on to like the whole Rita Moreno thing.
Yeah.
It's always bothered me like the way are just expanding on like the representation and diverse like of this family. Like Rita Moreno is his grandma, right? Is it his
I thought it
grandma
was
or
the
his
mother.
mom?
I guess it's the grandmother. Yeah, that checks out date wise. Yeah,
Why aren't they? Why no one's calling her Tia or?
I don't
But
remember. Put it that way.
and I'm just like, I don't know. It's like I remember that speech so well because it means nothing in it. It's like you've collected this wonderful family, like spreading your values, and I'm just like, what values? What
The
of
values of V8. That's all
of
it is.
the values of Nos? You want to know what movie has Nos? Tokyo Drift.
Yes, it does. That being said, let's get into action as the juice.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marley, action is the juice in this movie, isn't it? The most
Mm-hmm.
juiciest scenes of this movie. Hit me with your action as the juice scene, Marley.
Okay, my action is the Nos scene. My favorite action sequence is the chase sequence that Han has with I forget the antagonist
DK.
in this movie. DK basically gets mad because something. I honestly forget.
Like Han is doing business on the side, and his
Mhm.
uncle, who is like the big mob boss, played by Sonny Chiba, who is like
Yeah.
actual Japanese goat,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Oh, it's like you're making me look bad. I thought we were friends." He's like, "Bro, stop! You the one playing around in your little closet." But yeah, he starts chasing him after like pulling a gun on Han, and yeah, that chase scene, it's intense.
It's filmed in such a unique way. I love the way Justin Lin just films like these cars drifting in and out of traffic. It almost reminds me of like a dance. Like the like DK and Han are kind of like having like this elaborate dance. Like going back to like the whole like I've always said that Fast and the Furious is like it's American Bollywood, where it's like and that's why I feel like these movies like just do so well like overseas because people are used to like movies like this. But I love kind of like the dance that DK and Han are having, like just going back and forth like with their cars. It's very like cinematic and just the movie looks good too. And on doing my research like for this podcast, Justin Lin also shot this movie on film, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
what makes this movie like timeless.
I think they probably changed in 6. I'm not sure if they shot 6 on film, but 7 is definitely digital. They went digital after that. 7 and 8 are digital. 9 is back to film,
Mhm.
and then 10 is digital. And
Yeah,
that being
you can
said,
tell.
the film makes a difference. And at the end of the day, they have the same DP. Stephen F. Winden has shot all these movies from 3, this one, Tokyo Drift, all the way to Fast X. And he's worked with so many different directors. I think Juan is the only one who got the juice. Like, he has a different juice than Justin Lin, but he got a really good juice going. Everyone else
Yeah.
has not been able to touch that one bit.
No, and like I like that you mentioned James Wan just because like when James Wan was announced to like direct 7, I got really excited just because I love James Wan because he's an unhinged filmmaker. And like when he was announced, I was like, is Fast and the Furious like an Asian American like franchise? Like, is this like, are they taking it over?
So James Wan is actually Malaysian, Australian.
Yeah.
But still, it's like James Wan is one of my favorite filmmakers too. And he's just as maximalist, and he's got a different vibe than Justin does. But he knows what he's doing. He's got the chops, and he proved everyone wrong. If there were any naysayers, where there were a lot of them when it came out, but it's like he killed it with Fast 7. Fun side note, at Zach's wedding, I gave like the best man speech. At the end of the speech, literally, I'm like, as Dominic Toretto says, I ain't got friends, I got family. Salud mi familia.
Oh my god.
I'm being genuinely serious, and I'm just like, that's what I did. That's how these movies hit me.
I think that's part of the reason why I've never been a best man at a wedding, just because my friends are afraid that I will actually say that.
I did it. I had full reign. But it's like, if you're being genuine, then what does it matter?
Exactly. And you know what? Family is important. Mi familia.
So your scene ends with Han getting, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
So we think.
Han getting unalived, sadly. But did he? Because
Exactly.
people
So I think the beauty of that scene is like, there is a lot of great action there, and it's kind of mixed between them shooting in LA. That is downtown LA, where they're shooting that last bit, and then obviously in Japan. But I love the drift of them going through the big square. I forgot the name. Going through that, it's just one of my favorite shots of the entire like franchise.
Hmm.
But that scene became the if, right? It was like, oh, what if? And Justin Lin was talking about how this movie came out. So he shot another movie after this, like an indie movie. And he and
Hmm.
Sung Kang were just happened to be in the same car driving up some festival in Northern California. And they
Hmm.
got out to eat at Arby's. We're not going to judge them for that, but they got out to eat there. And it ended up being, there was like he's, exaggerated, but there's like 100 kids out there around Han. They got back in the car. He's like, damn, I shouldn't have, like, you're dead in these movies. He's like, and Sung Kang, just being him, was like, what if I wasn't? This man gets on the phone with the head of Universal. Hey, yo, I got a story. Let's do this. It's like, it works. And he's talking about like, oh, we tested Fast and the Furious, like the whole thing with Han. They didn't explain that this takes place before Tokyo Drift. They didn't have to explain anything. Test screenings, it all worked. So
Hmm.
it's just a testament to what he does. It's like he needed an in. It's like, for me, I need an into talking about these movies too. As long as you got
Hmm.
that fundamental idea, it'll run you. So Han coming back, my favorite thing, because he's my favorite character out of all these movies.
Han coming back, like, are you talking about a 9 or in 4?
In 4 and 9, technically. But I mean, like, he's in 4, 5, 6, and then 9. But it's like, I
Yeah.
love, like, 4 through 6 is my favorite, or like 5, or at least 5 and 6 are my favorite run.
Just the way he comes back in 9, I always thought that makes 9 rewatchable, because they
Oh, yeah.
actually, it's dumb the way they bring him back, but it's done in such like an artful way, and that's how it makes it rewatchable, because Justin Lin is like so good at crafting, like I said, like with these characters and kind of like spinning something out of nothing. That's why I love Tokyo Drift so much, just because it is Justin Lin. Justin Lin literally, he came off Better Luck Tomorrow, like making like this really small indie movie with Sung Kang, and it hit festival circuits, and that's when I believe it was the producer for
Neil
for
Moritz, yeah.
yeah, Neil Moritz basically called him and said like, "Hey, we want you to direct a Fast and the Furious movie." And like Justin Lin has never really worked with a studio at all, and the fact that like this was kind of Fast and the Furious was his first like entry into like studio filmmaking may not have been like the best door for him to open, but it definitely was a door, and he basically was like, "No, what? I'm just gonna have fun with this." And
And the thing was, they threw him the movie,
mhm,
and he read the script. He was like, nah, I'm good on this.
mhm,
He passed. And then he got a call again. They're like, okay, all this stuff is wrong. He starts listing off what's wrong. And then he's like, I'm not doing it either way. Okay. And then he gets a call again. He's like, oh, it's the head of Universal that wants a meeting with you. Just take the meeting. That ended up getting him a green light for an indie movie that came out right after this. So he got
mhm,
2 movies greenlit. He got Tokyo Drift and that indie movie greenlit, which is
mhm,
very rare to happen in Hollywood at any point. They were just like, you have to do Tokyo Drift first. And all the things that you were talking about that you want to change, you can change all that. But you got to shoot in
mhm,
like 6 months. So they rewrote the movie to have all the stuff that he wanted. That perspective change is why this movie works. But I'm gonna hit you with my action as a juice scene, which you went with a good one. I went with the juice scene for once, which is the whole bit starting at where Twinkie and Sean, so, our main 2 kind of characters, they get to the elevator, the car elevator.
mhm,
And the car elevator itself is something that still blows my mind. They get the Hulk car, which I used to see all the time when I went like on vacation to like Universal, because they had it outside the Hulk roller coaster. And me and my brother would always be like, yes, that's the car from Tokyo Drift. That being said, he gets the car, they get to the car garage, they get let in, the theme song, Tokyo Drift starts playing. You get to see all the cars, all the women there, which is always a thing in these movies. But it's like the entire, with the song, with the cars, the whole vibe just gets set up. And I think from this movie and on, the vibe has always been impeccable. Every time they come to some sort of car meet, this is always the vibe I'm looking for. The first 2 movies are pretty much LA, and this one's like, oh yeah, nah. This ain't the car scene anymore. All you got is imports here. This is Tokyo, and we're doing it the Tokyo way. We get that introduction. We get the whole thing with Neela and Sean, them kind of, getting their romance, flowering up. DK comes out of nowhere. He's like, get away from my girl sort of vibe. And that whole scene, there's like just fantastic blocking in that scene.
mhm.
And the whole confrontation is like, oh, like, do you know who I am? He's like, oh yeah, you Justin Timberlake of Japan. Which is honestly like it really is a compliment if you really think about it. You just took it the
Mhm.
wrong way.
Yeah.
But like the whole thing is it's very much like an Eastern culture versus a Western culture sort of vibe where it's like
Mhm.
they're so close to each other. At one point I'm laughing at like how close they are to each other.
I thought they were gonna kiss.
I know.
I'm like,
But
kiss,
they're
kiss, kiss.
but they get so close and then he's like, I thought this was a free country, like a girl can talk to whoever she wants. They just keep ramping it up. He's like, oh, like, you lucky I'm about to race. He's like, oh yeah, I always have something to prove because I'm an insecure white man. So it's like, let's race. But my favorite part of all that, like, it just keeps ramping up. And then when he says that's race, it's like, oh, you sound real cocky. And then Han, out of nowhere, he's just chilling in the corner, eating his thing, doing his real thing. He's like, well, here, take mine. And there's a shot of like him throwing the keys to him. And then the camera comes down, he catches the keys, and it comes back down to like Sean and then DK, and the shot just looks like a robot did the shot. It was that perfect. I'm just like, I don't know why. Like I rewind it, I watched the shot again. I'm like, that's a really good shot. And it's like there's like random great filmmaking like that you just have to respect. Obviously, they have the whole thing where it's like, oh, what's drifting? Elevator doors open, and you just see the cars drifting. That's cinema. There's nothing else. That's cinema. Like, oh, you want me to explain what cinema is? That's what cinema is. Like, you say something and it just shows up. And obviously, he loses the race. All that stuff is fun. But that's where the juice is, because like as soon as that happens, obviously he becomes friends with Han and all that stuff happens. So it's like this is the scene where the juice starts. The engine starts. They get the oil in the engine, and they hit the nos. This is the nos.
Yeah, I love that scene so much. Also, that scene like really shows off like how great the sound design is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like you talked about like the elevator door, like when they're like when they said Drift King, and then the elevator goes ding, and then that's the transition to the next scene.
Yeah.
Like you just said it. Like that's cinema. That's cinema. You can't do that in really any other medium. Like you can't play with sound and video and just blocking, like you said. Like all of those combined, like make like a movie. And it's like that's a great scene.
Oh yeah, there's some stuff in this scene. Like it's a bit of an extended scene to say it's one scene, but it's this whole portion of the movie is there's a lot of like almost montagey sort of things, but it doesn't feel that way in a bad way. This could be a music video, but it's not a music video. It feels like you're very much being brought into the world, and it's not distracting you. You're just being immersed within it. And I think they started to thread that line a little better with this. I think that you obviously have it in the first two movies, but to like go to a different culture and bring this in, this makes a big difference. And obviously, you know, when it gets to 5, 6, 7, like when you're getting around the world, things start to change and they make it compelling. I think they kind of peaked with 7.
Very much peaked with 7,
especially with this car culture stuff. And I love the bit of it all in Fast 5 when Hobbs shows up. He's like La Raza and all that shit. But see, that's why it's like you have to start somewhere and develop it. And this is them, you know, getting the pieces together. Obviously, not everything works in this movie, but they start learning, and they're learning the best way possible. Like the product itself is still good, but it's like, oh yeah, we can be better. Let's get better. And they keep getting better.
Yeah, I love everything you just said there. And also that scene features like Justin Lin called him the Tom Cruise of Japan. He's the guy that starts the race between DK and Sean.
Oh, I don't know his name, but I know exactly what you're talking about. The Ready, Set, Go.
Yeah, he basically, Justin Lin said on the commentary for Tokyo Drift, saying that he had to like hire like a professional driver for him to like basically like hide him away from like everyone, just because no matter where he goes, like in Tokyo, people are like running after him and just and causing a scene. So and like that kind of like goes into like what I want to like talk about next, like with this film, is that when they shot in Tokyo, it street racing is incredibly illegal, like in Japan. And but Justin Lin, like you said, he wanted to shoot like for real, like on the ground. Like this guy's like, he grew up with indie filmmaking. Like he's used to like the guerrilla filmmaking like style. And probably the coolest thing that I know about like Tokyo Drift is that he like someone like the assistant director would pose as Justin Lin and shoot like the scenes and would get arrested, and just so Justin Lin can still be a part of the project. And if that is not family behavior, supporting like your family, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, he was talking about it recently in that Happy Sad Confused thing where it was, yeah, I think it was his AD, and he was talking about like, yeah, I put him in the bathhouse scene as the attendant. That's the guy that went to jail for me, literally, because Japan is a bit weird about the, I guess, filming permits. They don't really give them. It actually plays into what my production value is. So production value, what is the most impressive piece of this movie? Whether it's a shot, film, moment, something on the screen where it feels all left on the screen, nothing's on the sidelines. And production value for me for Fast and Furious 3 for Tokyo Drift is Japan. I think Japan as a setting is one of the best things that they've done, and it's because the way that they handle it. Like you said, this movie doesn't start with, you know, the plane landing. There's a montage of like all these different places in Japan, and then like you get into it. No, that's not how this is. You know, Justin didn't want to handle it that way, and it very much was if you're shooting somewhere, the people are just going to keep walking. They don't care. Like, you're American, you have money, we don't care. We want you to abide by the Eastern philosophy, this culture that we have. And that sort of thing is very respectful. Like, you want to commend them just for being that way. But obviously, you know, when it comes to filming permits, it kind of sucks. But we get to see little pieces, little by little. We get to see, oh, it's like the food isn't bad here. We get to see them at school. We see the school lunches. We see them go on a date. We get to see all sorts of little places. We see the bathhouse. You slowly get into the Japanese culture, and it never feels like they're just like flashing this, showing off this, like, oh, come visit Japan. It just feels like a vibe. It feels like a setting that is compelling, but it's not detracting from the movie, but it's always present. To, you know, have that fine line of like being present within the story, but not overtaking your story is a very important thing. And this movie does it perfectly. It makes me want to go to Japan. There's not a single other thing that makes me want to go to Japan more than Tokyo Drift. Genuinely.
I know I said I didn't watch this movie in theaters like growing up, but like when I did watch like glimpses of like this movie like in 2006, I was like, Tokyo seems like a really cool place. Only a director like Justin Lin that spent time like in Japan and like around that area can only make me feel like that, because he knows what it's like to walk like those streets. And like kind of like what you said, it's like if they got someone like Rob Cohen, the first director of the Fast and the Furious, to direct Tokyo Drift, it wouldn't nearly have like any of the sauce.
Like, who would think about, like, when he gets to Shibuya, when he gets to his dad's house, and they have their little conversations, like, putting my foot down, whatever, and he's like, okay, here's your room, you're going to be in the room. And he gets inside, he pulls back the curtain, and literally within inches is the next neighbor, and she's sitting there on her couch eating ramen, watching TV. And it's like, who thinks of that? And it's funny. It's just, it's bringing the vibe in. It's bringing you into the setting. And it doesn't feel like, oh, that sucks for him or anything like that. It's just, you're bringing the audience into Japan in a great novel way. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. And it's just like, it's hilarious. Like, it's like, obviously Japan's one of the smallest, like, you know, countries, but it's like the most packed amount, like per capita people in the entire world, because they don't have space. But whatever. It's like, you don't think about that, but it's like, it's contributing to that sort of vibe. So I just love it. I really do.
Yeah, I love it as well. Kind of like adding on to like production value for this film is, like I said, I'm not a car guy, but I like the way all these cars look. And I feel like Justin Lin took special care on like who drove which car, how the cars each looked, and how they defined like these characters and who they actually are. And I feel like that led into the later movies, just because obviously, like we mentioned, like Dom is like the American muscle, so he's driving like that black car or whatever.
Yeah, and then Brian has his Skyline. He's always export.
Yeah,
like Tyrese has like the Lamborghini because he's got the gaudy car. That's just his vibe, and it doesn't work out for him. One of my favorite scenes in Fast 8 is when the Lamborghini can't do anything for him. That's the best part. But it's like, yeah, they become genuine extensions of the characters and their personality, and it is fantastic. It's hard to do, but it's like even Neela in this movie, her car is an extension of her. DK has the Nissan Z, and the Nissan Z had a grip on like kids my age, I'll tell you that. Like anytime me and my brother saw a Nissan Z, like, yo, it's a Nissan Z.
I was the same way.
But it's like these things, like I said, I'm not into cars, but it's like this movie makes me have these feelings for some reason. It's just, I wouldn't necessarily, it's a bit of nostalgia, but it's definitely a testament to the filmmaking that you're going to choose these things this way. And it's not just like, oh, the only thing that they had, like that was kind of like a decision from the studio thing was Volkswagen was trying to market their vans. And I think it's the Touran is the name of the van. And Justin Lin was like, okay, we'll do it. But I'm gonna do this whole crazy Hulk thing because he obviously knows the culture there. And he said when the Volkswagen guys showed up on set, they were they experienced some tragedy. It's like, what did you do to our perfect cars? But it's like what he did was add, taste. He added vibe of what Tokyo is. Like if I saw this car in Tokyo, this is what it would look like. And for better or for worse, it makes the car memorable too. And that feels like an extension of Twinkie, like Bow Wow's character, right?
Yeah.
You're 100% right about that. I love that.
One thing I also love about the Hulk car as well is that he actually reached out to Marvel, and Marvel actually said yes to it, which it's funny because like you mentioned at the start of this podcast how this movie couldn't be remade today because of certain things that are very problematic, but I feel like the Hulk car is something that couldn't be made today, especially where Marvel is at now.
And like I told you, they had the car sitting at Universal. They still have the theme park rights for Marvel to some extent. And that's why the Avengers stuff is a little different. Avengers Campus, whatever. It's a bit of politics and law and stuff. But yeah, it's a very rare thing that happens. It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You can only make that sort of movie where you have Mickey and all these other characters like from different companies because you have Spielberg as your producer and he's gonna, do this magical thing where you can get all the characters on screen together as long as they have the same amount of runtime. That sort of thing only happens if you have someone behind you. And Justin Lin somehow did it without someone behind him backing him up. So, I mean, it's a small thing, but it's one of my favorite. Like, if you tell me to name a car from this movie, it's obviously gonna be the Mazda, and then it's gonna be the Hulk car. And the Z comes up just in real life because I used to see it all the time outside. But those are the two cars I always remember the most that like bring me genuine joy. Put it that way.
Yeah, and DK's car, the 350Z, like one of my favorite scenes it was at the very end, the race at the very end, and I love how like talking about the extension of like cars are the extension of the characters. Like DK's car, like at the end of that race is like it's like getting beat up and like you can see it like crumpling just like DK is as a character because he's about to like lose. He's about to lose like everything. And that just adds so much to this movie. And it makes it, I can't tell you how many times I've watched that scene on YouTube of like that final race.
It's fantastic. And they shot it at night and it's like nighttime photography is hard enough as it is. And these movies are so hard to make. Anytime you set foot in a car, it's hard to make. And I will say Justin Lin, a testament to him is that anytime I see his work with the actors in the car, it feels like they're in the car. But a lot of the other directors that have been in this franchise or in other franchises, I'll see the car work and it feels like, yeah, they definitely did this on a blue screen. And it doesn't feel like they're in the car. And whatever that divorce of, feeling of like me not feeling that they're in the car, that's a bad thing. And I don't know what it is. Is it a pacing thing? Is it a camera shot thing? It could be so many different decisions. And Justin Lin and his team did it right. I know they're not in the car in these scenes, some of these scenes, but still, I feel as like they are to me.
I think it's a character thing. Like Justin Lin has proven, like not even on Fast and Furious, but he's also directed multiple episodes of Community as well. And like even like hearing some of the Community like cast members like talk about Justin Lin, they always like rave about him, how he can bring like people together and get them. They already knew like their characters. Like I think the episode that he directed was Modern Warfare in season 1.
Yep.
But they already knew like their characters relatively well. But like when Justin Lin came in, he like expanded on their characters like even more.
Oh yeah, he brings the juice. That's like there's an SNL skit about The Rock being the franchise steroids. Nope. The franchise steroids is Justin Lin. Look at what he did with Star Trek. It was a hellish experience making Star Trek, but he made it work. And it very much feels like he made his Star Trek movie. It's not him copying what, J.J. Abrams did for 2 movies. He just did his own thing. It felt like this grand episode of Star Trek, and I don't even watch Star Trek that much. And I was just like, this is the vibe.
I don't watch Star Trek like at all, but Star Trek Beyond is one of my favorites. It is my favorite Star Trek movie.
Hot take. I love the first one. The first one I've seen so many times, but the 2009 one, but I love Star Trek Beyond, and that's actually on my rewatch list because of us talking about this. I really do want to just do like a Justin Lin run. Like it's the vibes right now. This and like Paul Greengrass, because I just watched Born Identity, so I got to watch the next two.
Right. I have to ask, like, have you seen Better Luck Tomorrow?
Yeah, I have, but it's been 10, 12 years at least.
It's been at least about that long for me as well, but I just love the way Justin Lin just kind of like he's coming off that film, and then he's just like he calls up his buddy Sung Kang and just like, hey, I'm directing Fast and Furious, and he loves cars, and he's just like, yeah, I would love to be in it. And he's just like another, like, I guess this could be a production value as well, where like Sung Kang's character in Better Luck Tomorrow smokes, but you can't have smoking in a PG-13 movie, so they had him like eat snacks. So I kind of love like how they kind of like basically do that, but also kind of like add to his character, whereas it's like, oh, he quit smoking.
Yeah, it's like he quit smoking, and it's a good thing that he did, because if you're showing this guy smoking and he is the coolest guy on screen in this movie, you're gonna influence kids to smoke in a bad way. And whoever made those decisions is the right decision, and plays with Sung is eating in all the movies pretty much every single time he shows up, but we understand why, especially if you've seen the movie, and it's kind of a headcanon. I mean, Justin Lin kind of puts it in a stone recently. That character from Better Luck Tomorrow kind of ended up in this world, and they kind of make it come to life. My favorite part about Han is like his name, Han Solo. That's my favorite detail.
I love it.
Alrighty. Then on to dialogues. Dialogues not in the sense of like, the American sense, but in the Bollywood sense, where if you're watching a Bollywood movie, it says dialogues on screen because that's what we're remembering. So what is that sort of dialogue that stayed with you? What affected you? Hit me with some dialogue.
It's rewatching it, like it's kind of like I don't know. I think I love kind of like the themes of this movie, kind of like what this movie is trying to say, just about like kind of like this fish out of water, and even like at the very end, like after Han is dead, like they rebuild like that Mustang with Han's car, and just kind of like synergy, like we could like.
So it's the mix of the East and the West put together.
Yeah, like drop all.
And
our
that's what the movie is, right?
Drop all our differences, work together to defeat the guy to defeat like the bad guys. Like in the end, it's like that's something that like when that scene where they're rebuilding that Mustang and you see like the Nissan engine, I'm just like, oh, it's so cool. Like you not even like as a non-car guy, I love it just because of like what I just said there. So
I will say it's like the car guys might get mad. They were like, this is blasphemy, but it's not blasphemy. It's beauty. It's poetry, right? Because you're putting the physical notion of like East versus West into this movie. It's American, culture versus Japanese culture. And this is them squashing the beef and working together as a family, right? So my dialogue, I did have one little piece of so this very much is a vibe movie, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But my dialogue for Fast and Furious, my dialogue for Tokyo Drift is the scene that they have. It's between Sean and Han above the soccer stadium, the cool soccer stadium, and they're on the balcony. And I think they're two of my favorite like dialogue scenes from the entire franchise are on balconies. The other one's from Fast 5. He's like, I never knew my father. But it's like, emotionally that scene too, because it's like Brian's about to become a father, and it's like, what are you gonna be as a father, right? And it's like at the end of the scene, he kind of plays it for jokes. He's like, I'll be there to make sure you're a good father. But it's like you actually get a glimpse behind the curtain about Dominic Toretto's life as why is family so important to him. But this scene itself, it's like, like Han explains like, oh, this is my Mexico. This is me. I am essentially hiding here. He doesn't give you details, but he tells you I'm hiding here. And it's like he explains why did he choose Sean. He's like, what he says is, I have money. It's trust and character I need around me. You know who to choose around you. You know who you choose to be around you lets you know who you are. And one car for exchange of knowing what a man is made of. is a price I can live with. That's
Beautiful.
poetry right there. That's the best line of this movie for me. And it's like he's just trying to figure out who he is and trying to figure out the character, the morality that Sean has.
Mhm.
And obviously it's not necessarily, he doesn't have the best morality, but he is someone who is righteous in a way that aligns to Han.
Mhm.
Put it that way. Because at the beginning of the movie, he sees the kid getting bullied, with they pull him in and they're like spray painting his stomach, but then he just walks out. And I'm like, why are you walking out? Why are you helping him? But it's almost a thing where it's like he's a kid and he doesn't know what's going on. And the entire movie is Sean trying to take authority of like his actions and trying to actually, it's like, I'm not going to keep running away from these situations. I'm actually going to live with the consequences and try to fix the issue. And that's obviously what he does right after Han dies. So it's like, it's just great character work. And that little piece of, that little piece of dialogue is just everything. It's like, oh, we're hitting them with the bars real quick.
I love that as well, and I feel like that hits even more knowing like what even happened to Han before going to Tokyo. This is really just him like living, like just trying to recover after losing the love of his life. That's why I feel like people are coming around on Tokyo Drift, because they know what Han was going through and what actually happened to him. And like throw away like all the flip phones and stuff like that. I know people always like to bring that up, like, oh, if this is a prequel, it's like, why don't they have iPhones? I'm like,
I'm not worried about that logic. I'm worried about if you make a contemporary movie, make it feel contemporary. Did you watch Decision to Leave?
Yes.
And you know how he uses like his Apple Watch in his like detective work through that movie? Yeah. That feels like a novel use of technology, modern technology, our technology today. And when 2005, 2006, when they're shooting that, that's the technology they had. They used it appropriately. It doesn't feel like it's discounting the movie in any way. This feels like a 2000s movie and exists that way still today, right? It's not aging worse. It's not aging better, but it is a representation of that time. And I love movies like that. That's why I want more movies to be set today. And I keep harping on PTA's new movie that's coming out because it's set today. And I want more filmmakers to make movies set today. And if they don't want to do it, I'd rather do it myself, because we have perspectives about our world. It doesn't necessarily need to be a political thing. It just has to be that we live in this space, and why don't we capture that space and find love for that space? There has to be some sort of thing where it's like, I can have this, or this meaning my cell phone. I'm holding my cell phone. I can have my iPhone with me, but I can also have a good narrative story happening. I know you're a fan of not Searching. What was it? Missing. The new Missing movie that came out. I saw you had a really high score on that on Letterboxd. That's why it's like those sorts of movies, they speak to me. And I think people need to stop complaining about Tokyo Drift, because they were just doing the same thing.
Exactly.
And I commend Justin Lin for doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's such a small thing, but it's like that sits in my head.
Like, the people that complain about like the flip phones, I always like go back like media literacy. Like,
yes.
I know that's kind of played out a little bit now. Like, everyone's calling out media literacy.
If people are media literate, then calling it out would be a problem. But people are not media literate, so therefore you need to keep calling it out till it resolves itself, which I don't think it will. Which, I mean, I will always push for people to be media literate. This whole podcast is about media literacy, but but I've never said it before. So yeah, media literacy matters.
I always say, like, well, I've never been to Japan, but I have plenty of friends that like live there and like have visited there and tell me like all the time, there's retro vibes in Japan, like all the time. Like, my friend there now, like, he says that everyone loves sidekicks there. The flip up,
the phone, the sidekick. Okay. Throwback.
The Nokia sidekicks. And America goes through like nostalgia phases like all the time. It doesn't mean that other countries aren't susceptible to that as well. And like, maybe like at this time, Tokyo was going through a nostalgic phase and everyone like went through like flip phones.
I like that. I like that. That's good. That's a vibe. I like that.
Like, I was going through a nostalgic phase like recently. I want a flip phone because I miss like slamming it shut. I hate like when I call people on my phone now and I'm just like, okay,
bye.
There's nothing to that.
Dude.
There's nothing to that. I want to just be like, just close it.
My thing is, I'd rather not even have the phone, honestly. Like, I'll be working, and I'm just like, why are you calling me right now? And it's not out of malice. It's just like, if my mind is moving in this direction, like a steam train, I don't want to be pulled back into a different thing, because I have this, this device here. But then again, that would be a great thing to implement into a movie. My hatred of this and my love of it at the same time, that's compelling. And
Yeah.
that's what I think good writing is, what that is like, if you have an emotional response to it, you would hope that someone else has it. So you should share that, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I just agree with you on that. So
See, that's the thing. We don't have to agree. It's just my perspective on it. I would say one last piece of dialogue, because it's like it's literally one of the last lines in the movie.
Mhm.
And it's the line that propels this entire franchise, is that one of the guys from the crew, it's the last little car meet of the movie, Tokyo Drift, like the song is playing again, and someone's like, hey, like someone wants to race you. I was like, he said he knew Han. He said Han was family. He was family. And that plus the mix of the theme song to Los Bandoleros, and that's the entire franchise from here. It's like, that's the theme. You're establishing a theme in the last second that has kind of been a theme of this movie, but it's moving forward in the greatest way possible.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's a little Easter egg for all the fans right there.
Yeah. Do you know the history of that of that scene where they like, because they actually reshot that, like,
Oh, so that's a reshoot?
yeah, because
Go ahead, tell me.
they actually screened Tokyo Drift to audiences before, and people hated it. They wanted Fast and Furious with like the regular cast members, and they're like, "What is this? What are all these people? Oh, I don't recognize these people."
Why is this different? Why is this fun and different? What is
Yes!
Why would you give me something different? There's this rule in Hollywood, like, or like with sequels, where it's like a sequel has to be more the same but a little different,
Mhm.
right? And this is like completely different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they broke the rules, but so they brought Vin back to kind of right the path.
Yeah, they brought him back. I forget how much. I think it was like he signed it for a pretty penny, where to shoot like that 5-second scene, and that kind of like led into like obviously Fast and Furious 4. And I love this franchise not for Vin Diesel. So when I saw him show up, like I was excited a little bit, but I was just like, really?
This time around, watching it, I was like, wait, Vin Diesel kind of looks young. This is like the pacifier Vin Diesel. I was like, I miss this Vin Diesel.
Yeah, now it's like raisin Vin Diesel. Like he was really wrinkly
Sunburnt.
in the latest.
He looks like one of the thumbs from Spy Kids now. I'm sorry. Family.
Oh,
I ain't got friends. I got family.
that needs to be clipped. That needs to be clipped. Print it.
Sorry.
Post it on TikTok right now.
Cut the check. It's not gonna get better than this. Now I gotta draw like, I want to draw like a wife. I'm gonna put the chain on my thumb and just be like, this is Vin Diesel now.
No, do like just do a like clip art. Get like a like mask. You should do like a layer mask and have like a white well, no, I can't say that. I can't say white tank top. We can't.
Oh, I already said wife beater, but
it's 2024, Vikash. We can't.
Domestic violence.
Domestic.
We're getting canceled. I'm getting canceled already. It's fine.
Okay. I was canceled a long time ago. So, but
it's fine. We're fine. As long as we have family in our Coronas, we'll be fine.
Right. Well, I don't drink, but so
I don't drink either.
Yeah.
Fully sober. Always will be.
Yeah. To each their own. Our dad, Vin Diesel, but not us. So
drink the Corona, not that Belgian crap that Mr. Nobody's pushing in Fast 7. I love Kurt Russell, man.
Yeah, I love Kurt Russell too. Like, I love that he just kind of like just vanished. Like Kurt Russell was just like,
and it's like, oh, now we have Brie Larson. I was like, downgrade.
I'm like,
respectfully, I love Brie Larson, but that was a downgrade.
It's a downgrade for her, you mean?
No, it's a downgrade from Kurt Russell to Brie Larson. Okay.
Because I always thought it was a down. She's in the MCU. She's an Oscar-winning actress, and she's in Fast.
But I'm just saying, like, character-wise, I don't blame her. Yeah. I like Kurt Russell, but why are y'all giving us a lesser character? It's not her fault. It's just Fast X is like, it becomes the Avengers for no reason. Why are we doing, intercutting from A, B, C, D plot? Mm-hmm. We need A and B at most, but we might cut that out. Yeah. Okay, on to the Layla. The Layla. Best needle drop or use of score in this movie. What is your Layla for this?
I think we have the same one.
I've got 3, so you hit yours because we'll talk about it, and then I got the other 2.
It's the one that's all over TikTok.
The Teriyaki Boys, the Tokyo Drift song, yeah.
that's just that needle drop just hits every single time. Even on this rewatch, like when that song starts playing,
Yeah, both times.
I love it. And even the intro song as well. Like this is the first Fast and Furious with an intro credits with a song. I just like how much like style like this movie has, and like the intro credits start this movie off with style, and then
Yeah, Teriyaki Boys.
yeah,
Yeah, Tokyo Drift.
yeah,
Yep, that's the song.
yeah. Those are my two songs. I can't.
Yeah, 6 Days is
Mhm,
fantastic because it brings you into that 2000s vibe.
mhm,
And I was like, oh, I forgot about this song. They have a different version with Mos Def on the like the album itself for the
mhm,
movie, but I like the version of the song, the original version that they have for the movie because it sets the tone so well.
mhm.
We see, them going through the metal detectors and then we see them beating up the Native American mascot thing and I'm like, the 2000s. And it ends up being like the kid from the oldest brother from Home Improvement, if you ever watched that show. He was actually a really big car guy. That's why he was in the movie. But I was like, this man's playing like the most insecure sports jock man I've ever seen. And it was all the
We didn't
vibes.
talk about him specifically until now, but could we talk about like the thing he does with his tongue, where he was like,
We're talking about Zachary Ty Bryan, and I don't know his name in the movie, but we're going to call him Insecure Jock that throws a rock at Sean's car and they race and all that. But yeah,
there's a point in the movie where he's just like, what are you doing?
yes. So he does this weird thing with his tongue, and it's him like contemplating trying to race this man, or like, and I'm just like, this is one hell of a character choice right
Yes,
here. And I think Justin Lin kept it in because it's funny
it
as
really
hell.
is.
And it's like that scene in the parking lot where they have the confrontation. He throws the rock, and they're like, "Oh, let's race for pink slips." No, race for me. And I mean, her body, her rights. But
I need to talk to our parents.
it low key felt like Brick, like Ryan Johnson's Brick for a second. I was like, I don't know what this is. This framing and everything. It's fantastic. It's weird,
Mhm,
but it's so 2000s. And I really just love that scene. And it's like you're kind of want to get out of that so you can get to Tokyo,
mhm.
but that stuff is still compelling. I've seen it so many
Yeah,
times. I enjoy
I
it.
totally agree. But what are your songs? I'm anxious to hear.
We have Tokyo Drift both 2 times in the movie, but at the end of the movie, you're talking about how like the sound editing in this
Mhm,
movie, they go from Tokyo Drift playing to like, oh, he said Han was family.
mhm,
And then they cut over to like, we're peering past and the camera's coming
mhm,
back and we get to see who the driver is. And as that's happening, the song mixes from Tokyo Drift to Los Bandoleros. And it's the first time we hear that song.
mhm,
And it's just like, oh, it's like now this song, this needle drop, this is what Vin is, right?
mhm,
And they even made a Los Bandoleros like little like short film for Fast 4 about like catching you up a little bit with like Han and Vin and all them.
mhm.
But this is the first time that song plays in the franchise. It obviously comes back later again. So that's one of mine. And the other one is very quick. It's the scene where Han brings Sean into the club, and then they go behind the doors and they go into another exclusive club where Twinkie is, and then they go even behind that into Han's garage where he has all of his cars, and then Jules Santana's The Whistle song starts playing, and then he goes, is like, and he gets down there, he's like, yeah, it's like, that Evo, it's yours. It's like, I can't have you driving around in a Hyundai. And I'm just like, that introduction to the garage itself,
Mhm.
and you see like the little pods that the women are sleeping in and all these little small details, very Japan. I just loved it. And every time I hear that, I just hear those whistles and I'm just like, yes, like you said, we're not into cars, but why do I feel this way? Why is this so cool? And it's like, to be able to do these vibes is not easy. And these movies, they all of them, from the first movie, the second movie, all the movies, they all have soundtracks. And if you want to create a vibe, you need to have songs. Everyone is, creating new songs, or they are needle dropping songs that already exist. And these movies create an atmosphere every single time a song comes on that is unforgettable. Whether it's Pitbull's like it's like Hot and Crazy or something with like Lil Jon. There's like a little club scene in Fast 4.
Mhm.
Obviously in Fast 5 they have quite a few. The best one is like Danza Kuduro at the end of this at
Mhm.
the end of the movie, where they're like uncovering, it's like, oh, we actually have this safe and we got all the money, and it's just like the best time.
Mhm.
And it's like every single one of those, or even in 7, they have so many needle drops that I love. But I think Tokyo Drift is their best song still, besides See You Again.
Yeah, well, up until in 10, they finally
Yeah.
got a Daddy Yankee song, Gasolina, in a Fast and
Oh
Furious.
yeah.
It finally, you would think that that would be
But
their
it's like
first choice.
Gasolina is like, it's like, if anybody doesn't know what Gasolina is, go turn on Gasolina, because Gasolina is like the hype song. If you're from like a Latinx community, Gasolina is that song. Like the floor starts shaking because everybody is shaking. But it's like you said, why did it take so long? It's like the marriage of these two vibes is concurrent. Like this should already be there. It's like Immigrant Song and Thor. It's like, why did it take Taika Waititi and in Thor Ragnarok to finally make that happen? Who's not using their common sense for like vibes?
Right. I love those picks, except for Whistle, just because whenever I hear that song, that song played for like everywhere on my high school, and I got sick of it.
Oh,
So it was a little traumatizing for me especially on rewatch, just because I'm not saying it's a bad song. It's just like I heard it way too much, and I was just like, I can't hear this anymore. But
I have the reverse of that. You've seen Despicable Me too, right? I'm sorry, it's such a left turn,
very
movie.
left turn movie.
But in Despicable Me, Pharrell made the song Happy, and I heard it in the movie. I was like, that song is great. I get the song online. I listened to it 3 months, and then it catches wave on the radio and goes #1 and goes wild. And I'm like, I do not want to hear this anymore. So it's like, it's the reverse. It's like the movie hit the needle drop, and then everyone else, kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah, I worked at the movie theater when that movie came out, and so I obviously heard that song all the time when I was cleaning theaters, sweeping up trash, and
because I'm
and I don't know
because I'm not happy anymore.
Because I'm cleaning up everyone's popcorn that people should be considering.
Because no one knows how to clean up their mess. If Ben Affleck and J-Lo can pick up their stuff, then you can pick up your stuff.
Right.
No, but seriously, like that's a real PSA, because like
leave it in.
Literally, like if you don't pick up your stuff and you come see a movie with me, I'm not seeing a movie with you again. If you pull out your phone for some inane reason, I'm not gonna see a movie with you again. Just like respect the etiquette, respect people's time. I don't know what else to say.
That's why I go alone all the time.
But I'm gonna keep the train going.
Yeah, keep the Skyline going. The Nissan Skyline.
Okay.
Yeah, Mazda RX-7.
I'm gonna keep the Nissan Skyline going, and we're gonna go Evo with this. Marley, you know who should have been in this movie? Come on, let's recast a role for Tokyo Drift. Hit me with your recast for this movie, if you have any, that is.
It's not really a recast, but it's kind of something that I've always wanted with this movie, and I always tell people what this movie could have been, like especially if you remake it today. Like one of the things that Justin Lin really pushed for was an all Asian cast, but we all know early 2000s, not a lot of complete Asian casts like in cinemas, like at all, at least American cinemas. So if I were to recast this, I would just put Sung Kang as the main character. Sung Kang would be Sean.
Funny you say that, because when he was actually talking about it, Justin Lin said that he wanted to do a colorblind casting, meaning anybody from any background can come and audition for a role. And in that process, he brought in Sung Kang to read for Sean, and he already knew they weren't gonna choose him as Sean, being, an Asian man. And in that moment, he realized, he's like, oh, he's perfect for this mentor character that I want to write. He wasn't written yet, because he actually wanted Pharrell to be in that role as the Han character, right? And then that didn't work out, but he was like, during that reading, I realized that he's not Sean, he's this other character. He's the mentor. He exudes this quiet confidence within himself just as an actor. So that worked for that. And it's like you need someone who's a hothead and uncomfortable, like kind of, subconsciously with themselves. They don't know their place in this world, and that's what Lucas was, and it kind of is what he was, just in the industry itself. But do you know the whole Channing Tatum thing?
Vaguely.
So he is one of the last 3 people that made it to the role of Sean. So he came back, and he's one of the last people that he was going to choose from to be Sean. And I don't know how that's aged. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
Because I feel like he could have done it. I love Channing. I think he's one of our best, like, underrated actors in a sense, like dramatically at least. I don't know if you've seen Foxcatcher, but he's fantastic.
No, but I've seen all of the Magic Mikes, and he's fantastic in those. So, and I love the Jump Street movies.
Jump Street, yeah. I love This Is the End. Little
the cameo, small cameo. But I would like to see it. like I think I could see it. I could see him as Sean, but especially on rewatch, I think Lucas Black is fine in this role.
Oh no, he works. He works for this movie,
Mhm.
but I think Lucas Black was that guy because he fits in all those like check marks. It wasn't him trying to play this role. It's just he already was that role. So it's like it wasn't as much acting as more as it was existing for him.
Yeah.
So for what Justin Lin was going for, it works. But I wouldn't do the same thing.
I think Channing Tatum is a little bit too much of a pretty boy too. I don't know how he
That's
was
true.
in the early 2000s, but I think you needed kind of like that cowboy Lucas Black type character where it's just kind of like
You needed someone who already had that
yeah.
accent. who could talk like this, and I'm not talking like anybody else. I'm just talking like the people I know because I'm from the South. They don't talk like that all the time. There are some people that do. I don't know what else to say, but I don't know how to get out of this voice now.
Now you know how Austin Butler feels.
It's like I can't talk like this anymore. This is how I talk for the rest of the podcast. I'm gonna talk like this, and this sounds offensive, but we're just gonna let it be offensive. No, but seriously though, it would have been interesting. So I would agree that we should have, a full facing representative Asian cast for this movie, and I think it would actually align with the values of this franchise even more. And it's like, for me, just like from like a personal sense of like, if I tell stories, I don't want it to be like, it's not like there's not gonna be Caucasian characters in my movie. It's just they're either going to be the villain or they're going to be the number 3. They're going to be, somewhere in the back.
Yeah.
Because the characters they're going to be all people of color. Yeah. Doesn't matter what they are. That's what I'm going to push because that's what I believe in. That's what I see in my world. So I want to reflect that representation.
White people had their spotlight already. So
yeah, but that's why it's like if I love Bob Odenkirk. You'll never be a lead in my role in my movie, but I sure as hell would love to have you be the villain in my movie. Because you would juice that. And I mean, it's not like, people of, color can't play villains, but I mean, for the stories I tell, I mean, it'd be easier to have, a white man.
Right.
But my recast for Tokyo Drift, I wanted to recast the main couple in the movie. So Neela and Sean. So Lucas Black and Natalie Kelly. So people who would have been like 17 at the time. So have you seen Anyone But You?
Yes.
So Glenn Powell was 17 at the time.
Oh boy.
And he is such an American Texan guy just as an existing person. And the things that Justin Lin was working for checks off all the boxes.
I could see that's perfect casting, Vikash. I love that. I love that so much. Like that's even like that smile that he has in Anyone But You. I could totally see that just printed on that character in Tokyo Drift.
It's like Hangman. It's like he can be an asshole, but he can be charismatic, right? And that there's a very fine line within doing that and mixing it, and also being someone that you like and you might hate. So he's got that power. And even as a kid, he could have done it. I think he could have done it.
Yeah.
And we needed someone for Neela to be an outsider, so I'm showing today. Zoe Kravitz was 17 at that age too.
Know what? I love Zoe Kravitz.
I do too. I don't know. I think it would work.
I think it would work too. Have you seen that? What was that? That personal assistant movie by Steven Soderbergh?
You're talking about the Hotbox movie, right? The movie, the pandemic movie?
Yeah, the pandemic.
Yeah, I forgot the name, but I know what you're talking about. I saw the film.
Yeah.
It was solid.
Yeah, she's great in that. I would love to see her in a Fast and not in this movie, but in any Fast and Furious movie.
That being said, hot takes. So
oh boy.
So
I don't think you're ready for mine.
We were talking about this movie before, and Marley had given me a hot take. I don't know if it's gonna be the same one you have today. I'm gonna bring that one up, but give me your hot take. What's the first hot take you got?
This is, especially on a rewatch, this is my favorite Fast and Furious movie. Like above them all.
Guys, we're getting off the pod. It's been a lovely 2 hours talking about this movie. I don't agree with this individual anymore. And when you can't agree with somebody online, you just
block them.
You just curse at them and then block them, okay? So peace out. I love to hear it though. Seriously, like Give me some details about that. Because like if you say like Fast X is your favorite, then I'd be mad. If it's Fast 3, I think it's awesome.
I just love where franchises really started to kind of like break into like what they were known for. Like Justin Lin,
Yeah.
Universal should be sending him like Christmas cards for like the next like 10 years, because
They should be sending him a brand new car every year. They should be sending him royalties. They should be sending him hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just over all these years, and keep sending it to him because he's the reason this all works.
yeah, he's the reason that he brought like this franchise back from the dead. Because despite everyone liking Too Fast Too Furious for like the memes and stuff like that, it didn't really hit like people like expected, because there was no Vin Diesel or anything like that. So they didn't really know what to do. So they bring on Justin Lin, and it's just like Justin Lin just ate. Is that what the kids say these days? Like Gen Z, they ate. Justin Lin ate. So
he eated this, and Justin literally says, from his words, like the franchise was literally in the gutter when I got to it. And the philosophy that he has had within like him, or it's Neil Moritz, Chris Morgan, whoever it was, their philosophy was that we don't take anything for granted, and we're always going to try to earn our time. Nothing is warranted, nothing is guaranteed, as you know, life is. And that sort of like life philosophy, that family philosophy, is what they take to heart behind the camera and in front of the camera. And that sort of passion comes through. And we talk about, well, it's like you can talk about auteur theory, like, oh, like, is it really the director that's always doing this? It's like, to an extent it is, because it's like they're the ones pushing the style and the perspective. If you don't have that, then you're lost. And in this situation, especially with Tokyo Drift, you feel his hand there. And you see it across the franchise, because it's him that's like, oh, I wanted, like, we should do a franchise, we should do an action movie now. Oh, we should bring Han back because I saw this encounter with these kids, so I see the effect of this. And it's like emotionally, he's bringing what's, you know, subconsciously present forward and pushing it to everybody else. And it's like, yeah, some people do it and it's very negative, but what he's doing is actually like wholesome, and it actually counts for something. So I love the vibe.
And Justin Lin is not a car guy either. He's gone on record saying that he's not really into cars, but he's always, especially like 5 and 6, he says he's always treated this franchise like playing with Matchbox cars, which is probably like the best thing that you could hear from like a director. Like, if when you're a fan of a franchise and you love like you and me, like we love like action movies, like you just want to see like these cars do crazy, insane stunts for real. And that's what Justin Lin really brought to this franchise, especially with 4. Well, 4 had a lot of CG, but I think that's just because of the budget. But especially for 5 and 6, like he really showed like his action like chops, and like what
literally the opening of 5 with the bus and everything. I'm just like, are you? I remember watching it in the theaters. I was like, you're starting the movie this way? And it's just like, that's how you do stakes. That's how you do good action filmmaking. And it's just everything. It's not one thing. It is so many things that you have to get right. And you have George Miller with Matt, like Fury Road. Besides that, who has done this well? There's nobody on earth that's done this well besides those 2 human beings and their teams. Obviously they have these crazy stunt teams, and you have to like understand and get everybody on the same page. I think Terry Leonard is the guy who's probably the second unit director on this movie, where he was like, oh yeah, me and him had to have this like conversation, and we've really got everything together, whether it's lenses, all the technical stuff, but it's like conveying what you needed to get done, and then that's showing up emotionally for the audience matters, man.
Kind of leading into like my second hot take, what you just said there. It's like, it's all about team, it's all about family. People have kind of like pitched James Gunn as the best director for leading ensemble casts, like directors that can direct a ton of actors at the same time and not lose control of them. My hot take is Justin Lin is better than James Gunn at that.
Oh yeah, he's better than James Gunn. I think Nolan has added himself into that now recently with Oppenheimer. I'm trying to think of, I mean, obviously we have Rian Johnson with Knives Out. It's a very rare thing to do. James Gunn has maybe 5 people, and Soderbergh, Oceans 11, 12, 13. There's certain directors that can do it extremely well, but I think every time that they do it, it's a very specific thing, like artistically, that they're approaching it with. But I think Justin Lin has the most fun.
Yeah.
I think Guardians is fun. It's funny. But I think, Justin Lin hits it better.
Justin Lin,
because it's like there's a chemistry there. The baby oil line from
so good. The thing is that Justin Lin, he did it from nothing from Fast and the Furious, and then he moved on to Community. Basically came in, they didn't know him at all. Like they just invited him to like direct like one episode of Community, and everyone loved him after that and says that he's really good with like actors and like treats everyone with respect. And then he comes back to Fast and the Furious, then does a really good job with that, and then leaves and then does Star Trek, and then I think that's it for right now. I don't think he has anything.
He has a movie coming with Daniel Craig and a couple other people. Stacked cast.
Okay.
Deserved cast. Okay. So I'm excited to see it. Justin Lin and Daniel Craig, bro, what? So I'm going to remind you of your hot take, Marley, that I was saying that Han is the irreplaceable character of this franchise, that if he's not there, that this franchise doesn't work. And you replied back to me that this franchise is kind of like a D&D, a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, that they would have just figured it out otherwise. I think you're wrong.
Okay, go on. Go on.
Okay. See, the problem is that I think that Han is part of the DNA. He might not be, the main strand, but he's one of the two strands that hold together this franchise for me. And at least through, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then obviously 7, that emotional value that Han brings to the entire story is irreplaceable. Because literally leading into 7. Okay, so we already know that Giselle dies because she's not there in the third movie. So we're always living within that tension. But then they pull out the rug and they're like, Jason Statham's actually the guy that killed him, and he's out for revenge. And it's like, whoa, he's the one who killed him.
I will agree with you that there is kind of like a plan a little bit, but not really. No,
there's no plan. I don't think there's a plan within it. They're just, pulling stuff out of their butts, but in a good way, where it's like, I watch these movies because Han's in there, and then you tell me Han's coming back, I'm instantly seated. You tell me there's a Han spinoff, I am seated. If you tell me there's a solo Vin Diesel movie, I'm not showing up.
No, I'm not.
Respectfully,
I'm not showing up either.
If there's a buddy cop movie between Luda and Tyrese's characters, I'm gonna go see that though.
Totally.
Because it would just be shenanigans on shenanigans. Like, imagine it being like Friday. F. Gary Gray comes back, and it's just like a $15 million movie. Very simple, very funny. I would love to see it.
See, that's what 8 should have been. Like, it makes me sad that F. Gary Gray, because he's a great director. Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton didn't get its credit. That's for sure. Why is it that they nominate biopics for Bohemian Rhapsody and all this other stuff? Like, Queen, but we don't see it for
Black Stories,
NWA. And I love that movie. I think Maddie Lipatique shot the crap out of that movie. It's an intense movie. Obviously there's, some things here and there, but it's like, that's how you tell a story.
Yeah.
If you need to tell one through a movie, I think you should just make mini series when you're telling someone's life story, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
And you did bring up my other hot take. Like, my hot take was that this is as close as Hollywood gets to Bollywood, and it needs to keep getting closer. Because I see it a little bit in La La Land, I see it a little bit in the Fast franchise, and it's like the disparity between La La Land and the Fast franchise is so far, but I'm like, why can't I have a middle ground? What's wrong with breaking out into song? And apparently there's been a new thing with test screenings where it's like, you cannot market your movie to have music in it. If it's a musical, people don't want to see it. And it's like, why is it that people don't know how to enjoy themselves? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you can have songs that are, that are relevant to your plot. You know how you're talking about this scene, your action is juicy. It's a dance, right? All action, all the good action is just a dance. Balletic motion that you're trying to convey some sort of argument between two people, whether it's, in Bourne, they're fighting in a bathroom and it's, assassin versus assassin, or it's, John Wick doing his thing against the people that have wronged him, or it's this. I mean, people are just trying to resolve their issues in a different way. And it's just, you can do that through music too. You can convey your plot. I don't know. Like, it seems so basic to say, but it's like, y'all got to have more fun movies. I don't know what else to say. I think it's a very untapped well for Hollywood.
Yeah. And to go back to Tokyo Drift, like, the one thing I can kind of give praise a little bit to this is like, that the Fast and Furious franchise is always known to go back to like booty shaking and kind of like women dressed in very like revealing clothing,
scantily clad. Yeah.
But Tokyo Drift, like, yes, it has like women like at the races, but most at least they're covered up, and you don't really have like ass like everywhere, and just like it's.
Japanese culture.
So I don't, but it's refreshing.
And Neela feels like she's her own character. She's between these two men, these two boys, not even men, these immature dudes that are fighting each other, like whether it's physical or mental or just, their egos getting in between. But even then, she is her own character and she makes her decisions there, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And she draws the line there as much as she can.
Yeah.
So I respect it. But then again, in the same movie, we have the winner gets me. So
hey, we
two
can't...
steps forward, one step back. It's 2006. I mean, it's been 18 years. I will give it, that forgiveness it needs.
They can't all be winners.
It is a period piece now.
They can't all be winners, okay?
Yeah. I love it for all the vibes. I mean, like, that's why it's like, I think when you're looking back at a movie, you have to thread the needle. If you say this is problematic and it's today, then it makes sense. But if it's this many years back, then I understand. Do we want to talk about the Oscars? I would say that you might want to nominate a song or two. That's it.
Like, who do we nominate from Tokyo Drift?
Is there anything Oscar worthy in this movie? So that year there was a bunch of there's a few songs from Dreamgirl. Dreamgirl is like the musical that came out.
Can we just nominate Justin Lin as a director?
This is the Marty year. Departed.
Here's a hot take right here. I think The Departed's not that great. So
I love The Departed, but I understand. So this year, The Queen, Stephen Frears, United 93, Paul Greengrass, fantastic movie. Babel from Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, and then Martin Scorsese, The Departed, won for The Departed, whatever. Directing, but I mean, you could throw out Stephen Frears.
Yes, I think so.
I haven't even seen the movie. Like, why? Like, that sounds very insensitive, but it's like, I understand. Like, Justin Lin, I think this movie, I don't think it's necessarily Oscar worthy directing wise, but if you said 5 or 6, yeah, let's throw them in there. Might as well.
When you say Oscar worthy directing wise, I feel like we need to get out of that term, just because what does that even mean at this point?
True.
It's like,
it's not, because it's like, is it a campaign? Are you campaigning that hard so you won? Is it your talent? It's like, did you go through the most work? Me and Zach always talk about it. It's like, is it the most acting you did? Or is it the best acting that you've done? So we were comparing like Emma Stone in Poor Things to Emma Stone in La La Land. We're not going to get into that, but it's just, you see what I mean? Like what the difference is there.
Yeah.
And now she's actually won an Oscar for both. So there's even more of a comparison you can make. And I 100% understand what you're saying, that why do we have to say it's the Oscars? Oscars are not the best, they're not. They are, obviously held to a high standard. They can help you. They can help your career. It's just a thing where you can get more eyes on what you're creating, essentially, in my head.
But they're not the end all be all. So
never.
Yeah.
They'll never be, because they're not relevant enough. And that's why we just released a couple episodes of like redoing the Oscars for ourselves, where it's like we talk about movies 5 and 10 years later, where it's like now you have a little bit of time. These movies have aged. How they aged, what's still relevant, what still brings some sort of joy to you, what is that? So you can go through that, but I don't think you can do it within a year, within a couple months, within a month, right? Like Dune Part 2 just came out. People are like, this is the best movie of all time. This is better than Lord of the Rings. This is better than this. It's like this. But it's like, I understand if you want to say that, but we're not going to know for sure till 10, 20 years, 30 years down the line. Are people still coming back to this? Why is this emotionally relevant? And there are a bunch of movies that are nominated this year for Oscars that are not movies that are relevant. There are movies like Pan's Labyrinth, Little Miss Sunshine, Children of Men, The Departed. These are all movies that people come back to. So they can get things right at times, but they don't get them fully right. Pirates of the Caribbean 2 came out this year. Borat came out this year. All these movies have Oscar nominations, and deservedly so, because they hold up.
Yeah.
But they're not always right, and they never will be right.
And also, it's just they never show the appreciation for action movies and like
action, horror, they
comedy.
Sometimes hit comedy. They've done it, but it's never respectable from the Oscar point of view. as the Oscars are being disrespectful.
Mhm.
They're not to the correct standard of cinema,
Mhm.
because their reflection of what good cinema is not reflective of what it actually should be.
Yeah.
And that's why I was talking with somebody, and I told him I was watching a bit of Lawrence of Arabia, and then I watched Tokyo Drift. And that's just me. Like that's my watching habit. I could watch Billy Wilder, I can watch Sunset Boulevard, and then I'm going to go watch something that's made today.
Mhm.
But that's what your taste should be. You should be very even with what you're taking in, and that's the only way you're going to keep yourself even.
Yeah. Ex
That's all it is. It's a
exactly.
weird thing. But
That's a good mental health, tip too,
oh
where
yeah.
it's just like, don't always just watch, like, one group of movies, all the time, don't just shut out movies, because I know a lot of people that will shut out Fast and Furious because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I'm not a car guy," or "I just don't get it," and just it's
You
fine
never know.
it's fine to just not get it, but it's just, like, to just write it off completely because you just don't get it, it seems a little wrong to me, but yeah.
It's like I don't like body horror movies like Bones and All,
Mhm.
Titan. Like I still watch all these movies. I'm like, maybe it'll be different this time. And I watch them. I don't feel a great connection to them. They freak me out a little bit.
Mhm.
But Crimes of the Past or Crimes of the Future,
Yeah,
that Cronenberg movie,
yeah.
those sorts of things, where it's like I don't put a rating on that movie. I'm just like, yeah, I watched it. I didn't vibe with it. It's not for me.
Right.
Whatever. On to the next one. But it's like you should try, because you never know what's gonna
Ex
vibe with you. And that's like, whether it's life, whether it's food, whether it's your beliefs,
Mhm.
whether it's Fast and Furious, just you never know what's gonna happen,
Right.
right? And I think that's the magic of this world, and the Oscars don't understand that.
Yeah, yep.
And it's rare that they get things right. Like I was like, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once last year. I was like, or the year before, and I was like, they will never respect this movie. This movie is, it's just something else to me. And skip to 8 months later, and they actually did.
Mhm.
They might have over respected the movie. Yeah, always an interesting conversation when it comes to the Oscars, because who knows what they're gonna do.
Mhm.
They might Green Book might win over Roma. Who knows?
We don't talk about that year.
Ah, that's just a reminder. That keeps you even, right? That keeps you even. It's like, oh yeah, the Oscars, Everything Everywhere All at Once won.
Yeah.
But did Alfonso Cuarón win for this, this beautiful story about this, this Mexican woman?
Mhm.
And it's like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It is
Very
nothing short of interesting.
Which is why I'll just throw in Justin Lin for Best Director and then Sung Kang for Best Supporting. So, I feel like
Hey, I can support that.
yeah.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
I will throw in Tokyo Drift,
Mhm.
because I literally will never listen to any of these other songs, but Tokyo Drift is a song that like touched everybody who's seen these movies. It is a song that creates a vibe, creates a vision of what this world is.
Mhm.
And yet again, in 2016 Oscars, or the 2015 movies, like when Furious 7 came out, Fast 7 came out, See You Again, Caught a Storm, fantastic song, right? Not nominated for an Oscar and didn't win, whatever. I'm like, do y'all not understand the logic of what great music is, what a song is? But it's like there's politics and there's all this stupid stuff in between that does not, it's illogical.
Mhm.
And it's like somehow there's a point where it's like the Oscars are trying to make emotions logical,
Mhm.
and their math about the emotionality is just, it never works.
Mhm.
It's not perfect. And these 12,000 people, whatever body, I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know.
That being said, it's been 18 years since this movie came out. Legacies through the prism of time. This movie, is there anything that pops into your mind, whether it's about the people in the movie or behind the movie? How is it aged? Is there anything? We've talked a lot about legacy with this movie, because it's a franchise. It's a franchise that's grown into one of the biggest things ever. Literally the biggest property that Universal has in their belt. Still, I think to this day, besides like
Minions.
Illumination, that
Yeah.
company, besides that, this is the most valuable thing that they have. Obviously, we talked about representation.
Mhm.
That's something that really helps this movie, whether it's the crazy car vibes and all this stuff that's going on. What is it for you that jumps out when it comes to legacies for this movie?
I think for me, for legacies, I think Han really, like, the love for Han, not only from this movie, but really the whole Justice for Han movement. I remember like the hashtag Justice for Han like showing up, and people just really just falling in love with this character for like No reason at all, but also like valid reasons as well. Like they liked like how cool he was. They liked how like how supportive like Han was like for Sean, even though he was an outsider. And I think a lot of people kind of like saw a lot of themselves in Han. Like we've all kind of like been in that situation where we helped out like someone in need and didn't really know anything about their past or future, but we just kind of like stepped in there to help them out and teach them. And I feel like that's especially now more than ever, like in the world that we're living in now, that type of character and that type of way of life needs to be embraced like fully, like now in
Oh yeah.
2024. So
And the line that I talked about in dialogues about what he's saying is like, I'm trying to find the character. I'm trying to find who you are as a person.
mhm,
Like the car, like money means nothing. And it's like, yeah, of course, money, you need money in this world, but it's not everything, right?
mhm,
Like I would, and it's like when it comes to your friendships in real life, even then, right? It's like, what do you value more? Is it money? Are your friendships based on money? I think that if you have any friendship based on money,
mhm,
it's not a real friendship, because it's like, what are the expectations? What are the doubts that you have subconsciously in your mind when it comes to money? It's like a whole thing, but you fundamentally want people who are of the same mind to some extent, maybe of different mind. We believe in certain things, or it's like our core philosophies have to be the same, and we're trying to strive for greatness in some way, I'd hope, because that's what I'm looking for, right?
mhm,
But it's like that sort of thing. It's like, it's a very simple thing where it's like, this shouldn't matter. This is a Fast and Furious movie. This movie has no themes.
mhm,
This is just turn off your mind and you shouldn't think about this stuff. Like this is, mayhem, bayhem,
mhm,
no, that's not what this is. It's like these movies, I think great action movies, they have all the fun stuff, but then they hit you in the gut real quick. They hit you with one line or two lines where it's like, that's the point of the movie. You remember that stuff. I always harken it back to like Rocky. Rocky is supposed to be a sports movie, but it's actually a love story, right?
mhm,
And that's what keeps you there. And when it comes to Han, what keeps me there is like just him as a character is like, he shows up, he's loyal, and he's always been somebody that's looking for something. He's
mhm,
always looking, whether it's Giselle, he was looking for that, whether it's looking for a family. It seems like there's a past that we don't talk about with that character that's obviously present, and he's found his people. But what happens when he finds his woman and then he becomes lost again, right?
mhm,
So he finds this puppy dog of Sean and he tries to help him out. And while helping him out, he's helping himself out too, right?
mhm. I love
And
it.
I don't think about this stuff. I don't sit there and I'm like, I love this movie and I'm going to intellectualize this till the death of me. No, that's not what I do. But it's like, if I think about it, that's what I think about. That's what comes out from this movie.
Mhm,
And it's a testament to what they've done and what they've written and what they've done afterwards, right? Because the franchise is still ongoing
mhm,
somehow, for better or for worse.
mhm. It will die
Anything else that
eventually.
pops out for
It
you?
will die eventually, but there will be closure. There will be
I
closure.
mean, you just watched The Last Jedi. I mean, let the past die, as Kylo Ren says.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Let the past die, and let the new generation move on into the future. So,
So I'm gonna hit you with some behind the screen and some on the screen stuff that
mhm,
like really popped out for me.
mhm,
So Kelly Matsumoto, she's one of the editors. There's two editors.
mhm,
Typically, when you have like a Justin Lin, like an action movie this hard, they typically have two editors.
mhm,
She's the one who she started with The Mummy and The Mummy Returns,
mhm.
like the OG, like the Steven Summers movies.
Yeah.
I love those movies, and I didn't know that she had done those. She moved on to this with Justin Lin, and she's done pretty much all of his movies since.
Mhm.
So I love to see that.
That's awesome.
The other editor on this is Fred Raskin. Do you know that name? I don't know if you know that name.
That name it rings a bell.
So he's done he did this, then
Mhm,
he's done like Guardians of the Galaxy,
mhm,
Peacemaker. He works with James Gunn now.
mhm,
He's pretty much gonna edit, the new Superman movie,
mhm.
but he is also, as of 2012, Quentin Tarantino's editor. Django, Hateful Eight, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, whatever this last movie that he makes. So this man went from Tokyo Drift to Guardians. He's doing Marvel and he's doing prestige work with Tarantino.
Mhm.
And that's what I mean by great directors. They will recognize this talent. Why can they recognize it, but everyone else can't? What's the disparity there?
It's very interesting to me that Justin Lin and James Gunn like work with pretty much like the same team as well. And there's also a lot of like similarities to the Fast and Furious like franchise and Guardians as well. So I wonder if James Gunn or Justin Lin kind of like talk like back and forth, but like I don't know. I think it's just like an industry thing. Kind of like going on to your question, I think it's just because it like they're obviously like friends from like way back, and just like it's one of those things where like when you get in the industry or even before you get in the industry, it's all about like making friends and talking to people and like and not being a dick too, just because you don't want to burn any bridges. And like Fred Raskins just never like burnt any bridges, and Justin Lin was like, hey, I like you, I'm gonna bring you on because I can trust you. And James Gunn works the same way. That's the reason why James Gunn like works with his brother like half the time, because that's someone that he can trust. It's not necessarily that they are like the best like editors like around. It's people that you can trust, and that's like the most important thing when it comes to film, working with people
Oh
that you
yeah,
can trust. So
definitely. And that's why, like I told you, Stephen F. Winden has literally shot all the movies from Fast 3 and on.
mhm,
Fast 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
mhm,
10. He's working with the Russo brothers a little bit now. A little, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Gray Man, but whatever. That being said, the most ego-filled person in this movie, DK, the Drift King before he's uncrowned, Brian T.
mhm.
Have you seen him in anything else? I think he's fantastic in this movie, and it's one of those faces when you see him, it's like, oh, I don't know who he is, but I love this guy.
Mhm. I have not seen him in anything else, but like I just haven't had a chance to kind of like dive into his filmography.
The problem is that he hasn't gotten credit. The problem is that as an Asian man, he doesn't get enough
Mhm,
roles. So he's always had guest role on Hawaii Five-O,
mhm,
things like that. He played Shredder for the TMNT, like the 2014, 2016, whatever it was, those movies, the Michael Bay ones.
mhm,
He was the Shredder for those. But recently he got into Chicago Med. He
mhm,
100 something episodes, 136 episodes
mhm.
on that show he's been in. That's a good job. But recently, Lulu Wang, Expats, I don't know if you've seen that show yet or not.
No.
He is playing Nicole Kidman's husband.
Oh.
Finally, a role worthy of his time. And I don't mean to be, decorative to, TV or anything like that, but it's like, I don't know if you've seen the Wolverine. He's in the Wolverine, the 2013 one
Mhm,
that takes place in like Japan.
mhm,
He's the girl, the wife's husband. Like, he literally gets caught with some like go-go girls with his pants down, literally. It's a funny scene, but I'm like, it's like you as an actor want to get good roles, but it's like this man never got his credit. But I think he's, slowly, because there's a woman behind the camera, especially a woman of color, Asian woman, Lulu Wang, fantastic director, and she finally got him a role
mhm.
that is actually worthy of his time. So
Yeah.
this industry is, there's no guarantee. And I talk about this with my dad a lot because, I mean, even with Bollywood, I talk about like Bollywood stuff with him because, that's what he grew up on. That's where he literally grew up within. And you never know what happens. Like Sung Kang, love him, Han. He shows up here and there, but he hasn't had anything pop off. Lucas Black, he's doing well. He's on NCIS. He's found himself something, but it's like nothing's ever guaranteed here.
Sung Kang was in Obi-Wan, the Kenobi show.
He was in Obi-Wan. He was in Code 8.
Yeah.
He has a little role in Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
He does
but
I think now Sung Kang is really like he's in the podcast game, and he has like this
oh,
car talk cuz he's a huge
okay.
fan of cars. Like you would.
I've seen some YouTube videos with him
Mhm.
with car stuff
Yeah.
where it's like I don't watch car content at all on YouTube,
Mhm.
but if I see Sung Kang, I see Han. Click,
Right.
watch, I digest this.
Yeah. His car content is really great. Everyone should go check it out. But
That being said, who is your MVP for this movie? Most valuable player, the person, if they're not there, if they didn't put the team on their back, this enterprise would not be the same. Who is it for you?
well, I said it already. It's Justin Lin.
Okay, it's Justin Lin is mine too. Han a little bit, but it's Justin
Well,
Lin.
yeah. Can we put both of them in there just because like I think
Yeah.
at this point like Sun Kang was Sun Kang in Star Trek Beyond, was he?
No, but he should have
He
been.
should have been, but because I would like Justin Lin and Sung Kang to be kind of like the Leo Martin like dynamic, or the Christopher
Like
Nolan,
Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler,
yeah, or Christopher Nolan, Killian Murphy like aspect.
or Michael Caine Nolan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nolan is very, very loyal with his actors, isn't he? I love it.
Yeah, so I love it when directors and actors kind of like get that partnership together. So, but I will.
Mike Flanagan and all the people he works with. I don't know if you're a big horror person, but he's got a good list.
Yeah, I am lacking on Mike Flanagan, but I need to watch more
If
of
you
his.
like horror, I mean, if you watch Hill House, I think it's
Mhm.
Midnight Mass. I think those are very different things, but
I need to watch
some of the
Doctor Sleep.
best.
So
Doctor Sleep,
yeah,
director's cut. Watch that.
director's cut.
It's like going with an open mind. I think people were very shut in some senses. I think it's a fantastic thing that he's done with that. But it's like you have to be respective of what the situation is, I guess.
Well,
I think it works.
it's
I think it
funny.
works very well.
It's funny because I covered The Shining on the Real Lovers podcast, and
The Shinin.
the Shinnen.
But Justin Lin, like truly, if this man was not in this franchise, it would not be the same.
No.
And if you give this to anyone, any like little indie director, and you're talking about Ryan Johnson, I don't think if you give this franchise, because Brick came out in 2005, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say it came out $100,000 movie, he got critical acclaim. Neo-noir movie, let's put this guy into this franchise, and he couldn't have done this.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's great with ensembles, being a person of color, you bring a certain perspective either way.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin Lin has the directing chops, and he has the representation behind the camera, at least as himself, and that shows up so well on screen. It's funny, the action hits, the melodrama's present. Because a lot of a lot of the a lot of the Eastern film stuff, there's a lot of melodrama. Even, Bollywood, a lot of melodrama. There's a lot of, the meme thing is like the shows with like the dramatic cuts, the dramatic zoom ins, and the thunder sound is like strip all that way. And that's what you have. You have Fast 9, it's very melodramatic and it works. I mean, it's not the best, but it's like there's melodrama in there. But it's like, these elements because it's a part of your culture. And I think, I don't know, I would just try to push people who have more culture, different culture, and have them provide us stories. And obviously we need more of it, more and more.
Yes, more, just like Kylo Ren from The Last Jedi. More
Guys, we're gonna continue this pod. We're gonna do The Last Jedi now. Do you have any recommended movies, any companion movies to go with Tokyo Drift besides like this entire franchise, obviously?
Well, I wanted to not recommend something because I knew we were going to talk about like pretty much all the movies in this franchise, and everyone should go check them out like at least once. But a companion piece to this movie, I honestly I rewatched it recently, and I realized how similar like these two movies are to each other based on like how they were filmed, and also just kind of like how they were kind of like approached by like the directors, and that is The Last Jedi. Because like I think it's a perfect companion piece to Tokyo Drift, just because the way Ryan Johnson just kind of like approached like The Last Jedi, especially after J.J. Abrams like handed him kind of like the ending of Force Awakens, Ryan Johnson was kind of left like an open book, and so was Justin Lin. He was handed like an open book to the franchise because, like you said, Justin Lin said that the franchise was in the gutter, and not saying that Star Wars was in the gutter, but
he was given a blank slate as to which, here you go, this is the setup. What you do with it is what you shall do with it. And they both sure as hell did what they did with it.
Yeah.
And I would argue that, jumping off of what you're saying, I would argue very much that what they've done, both of them did, was something bold, something humane, something that we're going to look back on and be like, oh yeah, this is the right move. This is what that should have been done. And I could sit here, and I think I've had this argument with Zach about how it's like, Luke is this and he's this and it's this. It's like everything is not set in stone, right? You have to let the water flow. And I think if you want to have characters that exist within any world and have tension, have trauma, they're humans. They're not always one thing. And I think anybody can relate to trying to be a good person and then, making a mistake, doing something bad, something that they regret, or something that might seem like that, and then that actually being taken the wrong way. Right? Look at the Central Park 5. These kids were sent to jail. They were villainized, in the paper. I don't want to say his name. You know who I'm talking about. Literally saying all these bad things about these kids, and they were innocent. And learn these things so late, and it's like it's like it imitates life in a very interesting way that's not decorative. It's actually something where it's like it's making you think in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have those themes and the things that you love and the art that you like, what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I will be the first person to admit that, Last Jedi, Rose, kind of very big swing and a miss. I think they redeem her a little small bit in, Rise of Skywalker. She deserved better either way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I understand what you're trying to do. And those intentions, even if they don't work, I respect a swing for the fences
Mm-hmm.
than some sort of like, safe thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, it's conservative to some extent, where literally Han is like, oh, there's no wax on, wax off for drifting. We know this is sort of like some sort of, Karate Kid vibe, but that's not what this is necessarily about. It's about being an outsider. It's about, this clash of culture. It's about respecting a different culture, seeing what's great about it, but not dismissing it, right? Because there's different points in this movie where they're like, oh yeah, like this food's kind of good. I like it, right? And it's like this boy from Alabama that's, slowly falling in love with Japanese culture, right? And I think that's what you would hope. I'm a person who literally I'm an Indian American, right? And I proudly say Indian before, because I exist within both of these cultures at the same time. I am simultaneously not Indian enough to people, and I'm simultaneously not American enough to people. And I live in that middle ground. And these are middle ground movies. So
yeah.
I respect the companion piece, man.
Yeah.
I went off the rails, but I brought it back in a full circle, right?
Yeah, I love it. That's beautiful. And like, it's just, I don't know. I just love that both movies that I picked as, like both movies, Tokyo Drift and Last Jedi, they really could have ended like right there. Like,
yeah.
Like,
oh yeah,
if they really wanted to. But obviously,
the beauty of the Last Jedi adding, I will say, is like it's the hope for the galaxy. I love that Rey was nobody, and that for all the midichlorian politics or whatever you could have for the prequels, the beauty of the Force was that the Force is not yours; it is whoever has been given to it by this galaxy. And the kid, pulling the broom, I'm like, there's hope. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what good writing is. But where you take that and say, oh, Rey Palpatine, come on, get out of here. Nothing has to ever be related. There's a beauty to not knowing things, and there's a beauty to knowing things, but you need to know when to do something and when not to do it. So
yeah. Exactly. But I'm anxious to
hear
your
companion piece, I will say, was Doom 2, okay?
Okay. Perfect. It's perfect.
Oh. But I love Last Jedi. That's the sauce, man.
Yeah. I love Doom 2. Am I saying it right? Doom?
Doom. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm hearing Dune 2.
Yeah. Just like that TikTok I sent you. Of the
Doom. You want to see Dune 2? Dune 2? We got Doom at home.
Yeah, that's a great companion piece. And like even Shiv, like she said, like that is basically like Bollywood Fast and Furious. It's like with motorcycles,
very much is.
With motorcycles, and yeah.
And it's I think it's better than this movie just from, I guess, a nostalgia standpoint, because there's songs in those movies and I love those songs. I love the characters, and it's always fun to watch, just like this movie is. But it's like there's a bigger personality from the villain in that. And it's one of the best personalities they have in Bollywood. And it's just a fundamental difference of where the movie is. It's like if Tokyo Drift took place at a Fast 5 time, Tokyo Drift would be a better movie, because it's like you're progressing these characters that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is TV. It's not Marvel, where it's like, it kind of feels like you're episodic. These movies feel like movies in a good way.
Yeah.
Not to be decorative of, the MCU. I'm not going to get into all that.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. But the magnet scene in Doom 2, like I remember watching that for the first time. I literally almost jumped out of my seat when that happened. Like,
it's fantastic, man.
To go back into the MCU just a little bit, the MCU wishes they could make a scene that cool.
And I don't think you realize, like, these movies, they don't have big budgets. It's like like the rupee to the dollar ratio is very different. RRR is like the most expensive movie made in India. They made their money back. But this movie, like, it was like 350 million rupees, and even then that's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Mhm.
The conversion on that is $4 million, $4.3 million.
Oh, wow. That's less than what Godzilla -1 cost.
Godzilla -1. That's
Yeah.
3 Godzilla -1s
Yeah.
in 2006. So it's
That's
like, I
crazy.
mean, okay, let me see. Even if I did 60 rupees, let's see. That's $5.8 million. And even with that, you see what they bring up, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I believe in cinema, man. I believe in world cinema. And it's like, I'm proud to say that something like Doom came from India. Because it's a confluence of like different people trying to make like, okay, let's make a movie like this from America.
Yeah.
But it's like, let's make it our own.
Mm-hmm.
And every single thing, whether it's him wearing all the white makeup, being the statue and moving the thing and doing all these weird things, it's like I card, Baba, I card. It's like, when he's playing the old man.
Yeah.
I eat it all up, man.
Yeah.
I do.
Should I watch the third one? Because Shiv has told me. Okay. Shiv told me to avoid it. So
watch it, but then there's a twist in the movie, but you already know the twist for the movie. Marley, it has been fantastic talking about this movie. Me and Zach, we just did School of Rock. That'll be probably out before this comes out. Mm-hmm. But you never know what movie it is that's going to like spark a conversation. Mm-hmm. And we had this beautiful conversation about like teachers and how teachers in your real life can really affect you. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're trying to find emotionality within anything that you really love, you can find it, but it doesn't feel like it's, betrayed. I'm not like grasping for straws talking about, Tokyo Drift. This is a part of my DNA practically. I grew up on this, and this is something that I will always have fond memories of. This is my Ghostbusters, essentially, right? These Ghostbusters I watch, I'm like, I don't get this. Yeah. But Tokyo Drift, I get this.
But family, that hits deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family stays.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a real theme in my life that I actually do abide by.
Yeah.
It's been lovely talking to you, man. I'm glad that you came on for this. You will definitely be on. We will talk about something else. I don't know what it is. We will let the forces of life lead us to love and talk about something else. It'll be fantastic. Thank you for coming on, man.
Vikash, thank you for having me on. This has been like a pleasure. And this has been like my third podcast that I've talked about Tokyo Drift on. Like I've done one on my podcast. I rewatched these movies on another podcast, and I'm doing it on yours. And this is by far like the best conversation I had on this movie. Thank you for having me. I love that your podcast is very similar to mine, how we're kind of just sharing our love for movies. We're not necessarily hating on them. We're just discussing them and talking about them. But yeah.
Plug. Where can everybody find you?
Oh, well, people could follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads. I'm on Threads, threading. Is that the thing now? And I'm also on YouTube with the username at Marley Loves Film. And then if people liked anything that I said on this podcast at all, I also have a podcast of my own. As Vikash mentioned at the start of this podcast, it's called the Real Lovers Podcast, and we're watching all of the movies in the Letterboxd Top 250. Episodes are a little bit like they're kind of in limbo a little bit. Like I've had some technical difficulties.
They go off of vibes. Yeah, that's all it is. Whenever the vibe strikes, the vibe will strike for the Letterboxd Top 250. That's what it is.
But I do have 2 episodes coming up. They were supposed to be released back in Black History Month, but Black History Month is all year round, 365 days.
Damn right.
And we talked about our Black 4 favorite films, and those 2 episodes should be releasing. They should be released by the time this episode comes out, so everyone should go check out those episodes.
Yes, most definitely. And like I said, 70 plus episodes in, he's got a great back catalog. You will find a movie that you love on there. Check it out. Yeah. As that's what I'm trying to do here. Me and Zach, we always talk about like our philosophy for our podcast. What do we want to push? What do we want it to be that, we would hope that some people listen in the future, and what are they going to come back to? Mm-hmm. And every time I see people talking about Arrival, I see people talking about Django, I see people talking about Back to the Future. I'm like, oh yeah, we had a lovely conversation, whether together or with this person. And I can just be like, hey, check that out if you like it. We talked about it. You can get my full or mostly full thoughts. I don't like, we write outlines, but that's just like homework to like get our vibes, get our home, like our mind into the mindset of like what we want to talk about. But it's never everything. I don't hit everything. Yeah. But we hit what's relevant to this conversation. And that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's like the most important thing. We got conversation out of Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, which back in 2006, I had never thought I would be doing 3 podcasts on this one movie, but we did it. We did it, y'all.
Hey, hey, he said Han was family.
Los Bandoleros.
So, So salud, everybody. Hold up your cervezas. We will see you on the next one. Peace and love, everybody.
Hashtag family.
Bye.
Hashtag family.
Hashtag family.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cinema Pursuit. Cinema Pursuit is produced by Katie Nadell, Zach Nadell, and Vikas Patel. Special thanks to Cole Cooper for the intro and outro music. You can listen to Cinema Pursuit on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you may listen to podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Cinema Pursuit Podcast, Twitter or X at Cin Pursuit Pod, and check out our subreddit, r/Cinema Pursuit.